Good evening and welcome to the November 5th, 2018 meeting of the City of Summit Zoning Board of Adjustment. My name is Tom Yuko and I am Chairman of the Summit Zoning Board. In accordance with New Jersey Statute 10:4-10, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to a newspaper of record and has been posted here in City Hall. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to the issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. Please be advised that this is a no-smoking facility. The fire exits are to my right, your left, and at the back of the room where you entered. The gentleman to my right is Dennis Galvin. Mr. Galvin is the zoning board's attorney. He will advise the board members on matters of law and is the key interface with an applicant's attorney. Mr. Galvin does not vote on the applications. The gentleman to Mr. Galvin's right is Chris Nicola. Mr. Nicola is a city employee and is the zoning board secretary. Mr. Nicola works with applicants on getting their applications together, planning our agendas, and keeping our meeting minutes. Mr. Nicola also does not vote on the applications. Our board consists of 7 regular members and up to 4 alternates. All members can participate in the hearings tonight, but a maximum of 7 can vote. Most applications require a simple majority to be approved. Some applications require 5 affirmative votes to be approved. You will be told which majority will be required before we begin our deliberations. Mr. Nicola, please call the roll of the members.
Chairman Yuko,
Here.
Vice Chairman Lisowski,
Here.
Mr. Adair. Here. Mr. Steiner.
Here.
Mr. Spur.
Here.
Ms. Newell.
Here.
Ms. Leuenberger.
Here.
Mr. Mullen is absent. Ms. Schwartzstein.
Here.
Ms. Hensel.
Here.
Ms. Davis.
Here.
You have a quorum, you can proceed.
Thank you. We generally hear the cases in the order they listed on the agenda. We try to have each hearing last no more than 30 minutes, but we do understand that some cases are too complex to be heard within that time frame. Each hearing begins with the applicant or their attorney giving an overview of the application and the variances that are required. We then hear from any expert witnesses the applicant may have to help explain the application and why the variances are needed. The board members may ask questions of the applicant, their attorney, and the expert witnesses. If you are a member of the interested public, but not a witness in the case, you will have 2 opportunities to speak. At the end of each witness's testimony, you'll be able to be given the opportunity to ask the witness questions about their testimony. That is not the time to tell us what you think of the application. To ask questions, you'll have to come to the podium to give us your name, address, and ask your questions. After all witnesses have been heard, members of the audience have their second opportunity to step forward, and at that time you may express your opinion, positive or negative, about the application. Then the public hearing is closed, and we go into executive session where the board members discuss the case and vote. You will be able to listen to our executive session, but you will not normally be able to participate in our discussion. Most applications are heard and decided in the same evening. If a case requires additional information or testimony that cannot be presented tonight, we will carry your case to another date and it will not be decided tonight. Krista Anderson, the city's zoning officer, has asked that I remind all applicants that they must read carefully the resolution that documents the zoning board's decision and to pay particular attention to the conditions contained in the resolution. For example, if a landscaping plan is required, you must obtain one and submit it to John Linson, the city's forester. If a grading plan is required, you must have one prepared by a civil engineer and submit 3 copies along with the application fee to the city's engineering division. Failure to satisfy all conditions in a resolution will result in a delay in approving your application, as will cause extra work for city zoning staff. The resolutions documenting the board's decision will normally be available 1 month after we decide the case. When I call your name, please tell me how many witnesses you have and whether you think you can complete your case within 30 minutes. First, we have K&R Real Estate, 59 New England Avenue.
Mr. Chairman, that case is a carried case, and we have 1 witness, the civil engineer, to respond to Krista Anderson's memos, and a reprise of the planning testimony to also address the issue of the front yard setback. I don't think it should take more than a half an hour. This case, if you will recall, was carried to permit one of the board members to read a transcript and to permit the administrative reviews on the revised plans to be delivered. I believe both have been accomplished.
And there's one of your witnesses that will be arriving shortly. Was that on this case?
Well, it's the architect who's here as a resource, and I think the case can proceed whenever called.
Okay.
And accommodate her later on.
Okay. Stay standing. H Hospital, 99 Beauvoir. Mr. Sheehan.
That also was a carried case. It was carried for the purpose of addressing the issues concerning the visibility of the proposed parking structure. We have a full presentation on that. The engineer took the opportunity to revise the plans to conform to the engineer's report. And I believe that, save for a paragraph or two, that the engineer's issues, 85 in number, have in large part been addressed. But Mr. Hipple is here, he can address that. So I think that that would take probably between 45 minutes and an hour.
Okay. And finally, we have Kevin and Rebecca Morano, 80 Prospect Street.
Hi, A.G. Avellino for the petitioners. We have two experts. I believe and hope we can finish in 30 minutes.
Okay. So we're going to do something a little bit out of order. We're going to handle our resolutions and minutes at the beginning, just, is that all right?
Is that because we're waiting for the
Yeah.
architect?
Just in case.
Okay.
Would you rather not?
No, you're the boss.
Okay.
I just was questioning if we still needed to do that.
I would just rather get it done.
Okay.
Okay. So resolutions?
First resolution is 46 Parkview Terrace, application ZB-18-1940. Eligible voting members are Vice Chairman Lisowski, Mr. Ladary, Mr. Steiner, Ms. Newell, Ms. Lumenberger, and Chairman Yuko. So I need a motion? Motion. Second? Vice Chairman Lisowski?
Yes.
Mr. Ladary?
Yes.
Mr. Steiner?
Yes.
Ms. Newell?
Yes.
Ms. Lumenberger?
Yes.
Chairman Yuko.
Yes.
All right. Next resolution is 6 Crestwood Lane, application ZB-18-1942. Eligible voting members are Vice Chairman Lisowski, Mr. Ladary, Mr. Steiner, Ms. Newell, Ms. Lumenberger, and Chairman Yuko. So need a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Vice Chairman Lisowski,
Yes.
Mr. Ladary,
Yes.
Mr. Steiner,
Yes.
Ms. Newell,
Yes.
Ms. Lumenberger,
Yes.
Chairman Yuko.
Yes.
And the last resolution is 80 Division Avenue, application ZB-18-1932. Eligible members are Mr. Steiner, Mr. Spur, Ms. Newell, Ms. Davis, and Vice Chairman Lisowski. Need a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Mr. Steiner,
Yes.
Mr. Spur,
Yes.
Ms. Newell,
Yes.
Ms. Davis,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Lisowski.
Yes.
All right. And we have 2 sets of minutes for approval. First set is September 26, 2018. Need a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And the second set of minutes is from October 1st, 2018. Need a motion and a second.
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay. Before we begin, I just want to let everybody, the board members and the audience know that the first two cases, 59 New England and 99 Beauvoir, are being recorded for broadcast on the Community Access Local TV service, so keep that in mind. The Prospect Street will not be recorded. Mr. Sheehan.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, for the record, Bartholomew A. Sheehan Jr., appearing on behalf of the firm of Dempsey, Dempsey and Sheehan, attorneys for the applicant in this matter. Mr. Chairman, as we begin, would it be appropriate to confirm how many members we have to vote on this application this evening?
Ms. Nicola can handle that.
Yes, we have Chairman Yuko, Vice Chairman Lisowski, Mr. Ladary, Mr. Mr. Steiner, Mr. Spur. We have Ms. Newell and Ms. Lewinberger. That's your 7.
Okay, thank you.
And who reviewed the transcript?
You want them signed beforehand?
Yes.
I gave them mine.
I got yours.
Okay.
So we got Mr. Steiner's. Who else?
Christie on mine?
Yes.
It's Ms. Lewinberger, Mr. Steiner, and Mr. Spur.
And thank you for taking the time to review the transcript. We appreciate it. I'll notarize it. You send it back.
Okay, they're all in?
Yes, they are, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, all of the principals and the professionals have returned this evening to respond to any questions that might be opened or asked or developed during the course of this hearing. At the end of the last hearing, the hearing was carried to permit transcripts to be read by sufficient numbers to create a 7-voting board. The second reason why the application was carried was to permit the plans of the engineer that were revised to September 17th to have been reviewed by the administrative departments of the Department of Community Services. The reviews forwarded under cover of November 2nd, 2018, invite the following comments. The fire chief maintains his previously expressed requests. The applicant agrees as a condition of approval to satisfy both requests to the satisfaction of the fire chief as a condition of approval. The engineer's report dated October 26, 2018, acknowledges receipt of the revised plans, revised to the date of July 16, 2018, and called for additional testimony on several items, which Mr. Hollows will provide this evening. The balance of the paragraphs not being addressed by Mr. Hollows have either been satisfied or are to be carried as conditions of approval. If I misspeak in this regard, I'm sure that Mr. Hippolyth will correct me. The Historic Preservation Commission's concern expressed in prior reviews continues. This issue was addressed in testimony by Karen Luongo at the September 17th meeting, and although Ms. Luongo is not here at the present time, she will be here before the conclusion of the hearing to respond to any inquiries that the board might have. It will be recalled that the Historic Preservation Commission's concern was with the materials of the facade of the buildings, and Ms. Luongo gave ample testimony to indicate that the material selection that she made as the architect was designed through tradition from the red brick buildings to the north, to the stone church to the south. And I think that her testimony, if it's recalled by the members, will prove effective in that regard. The environmental condition has continued concern for the loss of trees, notwithstanding the applicant's substantial landscaping plan testified to at the last hearing by Mr. Hollows. Krista Anderson's review raises 3 issues. The wall and the fence height and location, which will be responded to by Bill Hollows of Murphy and Hollows, who has prepared a plan which has been pre-marked in these proceedings as A12 that addresses the concerns raised by Krista Anderson in this regard, and which has been reflected in a memorandum from Krista Anderson dated today, which I, at this point, ask the board members whether or not they have had the opportunity to review. I see heads nodding, so I'm assuming that it was delivered.
It's on our table this morning.
Great.
or this evening.
In addition, the second thing that Ms. Anderson raises is the need for a wall sign variance, which she called out. Mr. Hollows will testify and identify its location, and the applicant amends its application to request relief to place a dignified wall sign on the site in the event that the application is reviewed favorably by this board. Finally, Krista Anderson, responding to questions from the chair and board members, has provided a summary of certain of the adjoining projects up and down New England Avenue, giving the date of construction and prevailing ordinance standards for front yard setbacks when built. She has supplemented this with the memorandum this evening indicating when changes in the front yard setback were placed on the various uses in the zone, i.e. Garden apartments, townhouses, and multifamily developments. These issues of front yard setback will be briefly revisited by the planner in an effort to marshal the context in which this proposed development is cited and the application of prevailing law to the project as proposed, where it is proposed to be cited. The planner's report incorporates concerns of Krista Anderson and requires the legal proofs necessary of a positive and negative nature to support the application. Finally, by way of beginning, at the last hearing, one of the board members asked if there would be a consolidation of Lot 5 with Lot 1, the property of the Monastery of the Dominican Nuns, and I can report that the nuns expressly consent to the consolidation of the resulting Lot 5 into existing Lot 1, which is the main lot of the monastery on which the recently approved addition is being currently constructed. So if there are any questions from the board members, I'd be glad to try and answer them at this point. If not, I would begin by asking William Hollows, previously sworn in this matter, to come forward and give testimony.
Any questions for Mr. Sheehan from board members? Seeing none, okay, proceed.
All right, we'll exchange places here.
I think I could probably speak to this drawing, and then I'll go over there.
Is it been marked previously?
It has
Mark
812.
812.
No, wait, Bill. We have additional copies for distribution to the board members so that they can see it up close and personal.
We have reduced copies, and then there's a few full-size copies which you can share, however you would like to.
I'm happy with the reduced copies if have these spread around too, but. Thank you, sir.
Don't need more paper.
All right, now, Mr. Hollows, have you considered the administrative reviews that were mailed to the applicant in early November? The reviews coming in October 29th for Krista Anderson, and I think it was the 28th for the engineer.
I am. I also had a couple of phone conversations with Chris Anderson regarding this. And
Did you prepare an exhibit that had been previously marked A12 in these proceedings for presentation to the board that is in response to those administrative reviews?
I have.
Would you take us through it, please?
The background to it was that we had a similar detail on our site plan drawings, which actually was the worst case scenario for the height of the wall. And in conversation with Chris Anderson, I explained to her that the wall along New England Avenue was only about 3 feet tall, and then you'd have the fencing on top of that, just for security reasons. That the only place that the wall got up to 7 feet tall was along the northerly property line and very, very close to the building. So to allay the confusion on that, we made this drawing as exhibit here. And actually, I'll go around and address all the walls, but the detail number 1 would be the wall across the front and partway down on the north side. And it's a wall of 3 feet, well, total is 5 feet 6 inches to 6 feet, because it goes from 3 to 3.5 feet, and then we have 36 inches of fencing on top of that. And the detail number 2, which is only for a small portion of the property along the northerly property line, is a 7-foot tall wall with 4 foot and then a 3-foot fence on top of that. But I think there were some other questions regarding the walls, so I just wanted, in the engineer's letter, there were some questions about, there are some other walls on this site. And the wall at the end of the parking lot is going to be a reinforced concrete wall, faced with some material similar to what's going to be on the building. And that varies in height from maximum is 10 feet, but goes from 6. And there's one spot back on the back end where it's 10. Along the back of the property, the east side, adjacent to the sister's property, is a retaining wall, be a modular concrete block wall, and that has a height of only a couple of feet. And then along the southerly property line, adjacent to Christ Church, there's another modular block wall that has a maximum height of 3.5 feet. And that's just for a short portion also. So this drawing was made to, so there was no confusion on the size of the wall, location of the walls, and the type of walls that we're putting on there. Chris Anderson's comments and also comments from the engineer's review, I think we've covered types of walls. And the tall wall would have to, if the board would approve this, when you went for building permit, you'd have to have engineering calculations for that wall. Modular block wall is below the 4 feet threshold.
Mr. Chairman, I would like for the record to reflect the first 2 paragraphs of Krista Anderson's memorandum of November 5th, 2018, previously distributed to the board, in which she states, "A wall and fence location plan has been submitted electronically by William Hollows. The plan entitled Fence and Wall Plan dated November 2nd, 2018, shows the locations of all the proposed walls and also provides 2 wall and fence details. Wall detail 1 shows the proposed wall and fence, safety guardrail, combination proposed for the wall to be constructed parallel to the New England Avenue front property line. Wall detail 2 shows the area of wall and fence, safety guardrail to be constructed parallel to the left side property line adjacent to Lot 5. It is expected that the applicant will present an exhibit at the meeting tonight to answer any questions." That is the exhibit that you have presented, is it not, Mr. Hollows?
That's correct.
And can you indicate for the record where the wall sign would be located?
My suggestion would be that the wall sign would be adjacent to, close to the driveway, but on the side of the walkway up, either on the northerly side of the walkway going into the first 2 units. And the detail of that would be the same detail as wall detail number 1, with the exception of the brick would be carried to the top, and then the sign would fit on that section. It's a 2 by 8 foot sign, similar to what's on the drawing. But the brick would go to the just below the pillars, and that plaque would be fastened to the brick wall.
So just to know what we're approving, I heard you say that's your suggest location. Is that in fact where the applicant is proposing to?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's not a suggestion?
Correct.
Thank you. We're good.
All right, now, Mr. Hollis, before you leave that drawing and we get into the engineer's report, oh, excuse me, let's go to the engineer's report first. All right, the engineer's report of October 26, 2018, is it a report that you have considered?
Yes, I have reviewed that. Similar to the original review letter, and some of the items have been checked off. And some of them I think I've actually testified to. There wouldn't necessarily be things I would do at this point, because if we don't have a project, then we're not going to do detailed calculations on certain things. I wouldn't do a maintenance manual at this time, but certainly one we could do and submit to the engineering department for their review. That maintenance manual will be on the stormwater management system.
Other than the items such as you mentioned, which would be carried traditionally as conditions of approval, but I ask you to refer to particular paragraphs where the engineer has requested some additional testimony. And I refer you to page 2, paragraph number 3.
That has to do with the building coverage for the property, the proposed project. Prior to the last meeting, I had gone through the calculations, and our drawing said 24.1 for the building coverage. It's actually 30.9. It was a variance before, it remains a variance at this time.
So it's to correct the mathematical error, correct?
Correct. And I don't know how it got there. It was there.
All right, well, thank you for acknowledging it and pointing out the error. With regard to number 7,
That's just a transposition of numbers. On sheet 1, in our coverage calculations, the driveway number and the walkway number should be reversed. In fact, it's done we've revised our master drawing so that any subsequent drawings, it's already corrected.
all right, with regard to paragraph number 12,
This gets into some technical weeds, so to speak. Because this is considered a major project under DEP regulations, because there's more than a quarter of acre of new impervious coverage, DEP would like us to take care of suspended solids, treat the suspended solids for this project, or any project that's over a quarter acre of new impervious coverage. And we can get it, 80% is our target. We can't get it to 80%. We can get it to 59.2% using 2 mechanical devices. The reason why we can't get to the 80% is because we can't use the filter cartridges, which would allow us to get there very easily. But it has to do with the depth of our system, where we're discharging into the existing storm drain down at the corner of Springfield Avenue and New England Drive. We just can't get the depth there. So working it backwards, the mechanical device that we provided for, it's a spinning device where the water will actually circulate and then the solids fall out to the sides. Now, but I would like to make the caveat that we are taking the water from the roofs of the buildings and some of the walkways. That's not considered dirty water, so you technically wouldn't have to treat that, but because our system is all inclusive, we're treating actually some clean water, so we don't think that, I think we've met the spirit of what DEP is trying to get you to do. Sure.
It says that you're requesting a waiver from NJDEP. What if you don't achieve getting that waiver?
Then we have to try to come up with another method that they would be happy with. I think we've gotten to a point where we think, and I've discussed this with other my colleagues in the business and the engineer, and we think we've gotten to where we can get with this project.
I can weigh in on this. I think because they are collecting all the roof water, if it's looked at by the DEP, I think they'll be fine. They're above 50, they're below 80, but they're collecting all the roof water. So if you actually recalculate a different way, it looks very different. So I've seen where this is actually not a problem. They've taken all the methods necessary to do what they need to do. So I would tell you that they're fine.
And from a bigger picture, we're never allowed to hold up an application for outside agency approvals. So basically, if they don't solve the DEP problem, they don't move forward. But we do our job first, and then they have to they have to go get those outside agency approvals. DEP's won't.
Yeah, they should be fine.
Mr. Hippolyte says it can be done, it can be done.
Mr. Hollis, paragraph number 13.
13 has to do with the soils testing that we did on site for recharge of our stormwater system. And I had taken a soil sample, took it to a soil lab, and there were two samples on site. One was a poor sample, one was a marginal sample. But my individual test that I did out there in the soil log that I did, I had no movement at all as far as percolation. The soils test says it's a marginal soil, so we just abandoned the idea of trying to recharge. I just don't think it's going to function.
Was that Mr. Hippolyte? I couldn't hear you.
We're okay with that. They're trying to recharge the soils, don't allow it, so if it doesn't allow it, they can't do it. So there's no requirement to do it if your soils don't allow it.
Let's move to paragraph 16, Mr. Hollis, please.
I think that was actually taken care of with the latest, there's a number of them that are 15 and 16 kind of go together, and that was taken care of with the latest drainage report that we had submitted to Mr. Hippolyte's
I
office.
agree with that.
How about 19, Mr. Hollis?
Our lighting plan, has to do with off-site spillage of lighting.
Definitely ask.
It's on actually sheet 8 of 13.
Revised to what date, Mr. Hollis?
July 16, 2018. There's a little bit of light spillage. We have a light pole at the entrance of the driveway. We'd like to light that driveway so that people know where they're coming into the project. And there's a little bit of light that goes over onto Christ Church property. It's the area where they have the parking lot. I don't think it's an expensive amount there. In addition, we have some light spillage out into New England Avenue, and that's where our two walkways are. The buildings with light posts, lights on there. Again, we're going to end up lighting up the sidewalk in front of our project, and also a little bit of light spillage into the parking stalls on New England Avenue.
And included in the waivers requested by the applicant. That will be included in the
Yes.
waivers requested by the applicant, Mr. Chairman. The interest of public safety, Mr. Hollis, is that some light spillage that is recommended in your design?
Certainly not going to hurt
criteria?
anything, and probably a good thing actually in this case, because we're lighting up the walkway in
So
front of the
Frank,
project.
just for the board, I don't necessarily have a problem with the waiver. What I want to be careful of is we get a light that goes up and also we get a bright spot and somebody's complaining to us. So I think you can grant, if you desire, you can grant the waiver on it, but even these lights and even that fixture can be shielded from the backside. They make shields that fit in those decorative lights. So you'd usually keep jurisdiction over landscaping and lighting anyway. So I would keep jurisdiction over it. If we have to put a shield in, we put it in. It wouldn't be on all, lighting the sidewalk on New England's fine. You want to light it so people can walk there. It's just those couple along the church side is probably not a problem, but I just be cautious just in case.
Applicant would agree as a condition of approval to shield it on the church side so that it complies with the ordinance requirements.
And we're fine with that.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Mr. Hippolyte's number 20 has already been addressed in your presentation in response to the Krista Anderson emails, correct, Mr. Hollis?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think 20,
So 22, same thing. We're closing in on the end of this. How about paragraph 23, Mr. Hollis?
23 has to do with the sanitary sewer. We're actually extending a sanitary sewer main through this project, and we would need to go to DEP for a treatment works approval for this sewer extension.
That would be in the engineer's report carried as a condition of approval. Correct?
Correct.
With regard to number 26, Mr. Hollis, I believe that in prior testimony, it was agreed as a condition of approval to defer to the city forester and submit to his review and approval all proposed landscaping for the site. Is that correct?
That's correct. And I think his latest letter was no objection.
That's correct, yep.
Yeah, most, that's correct.
Right, number 28 has been answered, correct?
That's correct.
And that is it. All right, now, Mr. Hollis, if you would be kind enough to go back to your initial rendered drawing, I ask you for a calculation. And Mr. Chair, for the record, could reflect that Mr. Longo, the architect, is in attendance at this time.
Thank you.
Now, Mr. Hollis, can you identify the distance between the curb and the wall on the north and south side of the proposed project?
It's pretty consistent, actually. From the curb to the proposed wall is 12 feet.
And if you were asked what the distance of the wall from the curb was with regard to Beacon Square project across New England Avenue, which this project is architecturally a cousin to, what would that distance be?
Similar to this, in a 12-foot neighborhood.
And what's the distance from the curb to the building on the proposed plan at the south and north side?
And the curb to the building would be 35 feet at the south side, and at the north side would be 45 feet.
All right, I have no further questions of Mr. Hollis. It would submit it to the examination of the board, the experts and members of the interested public.
Mr. Triplett, do you have any additional questions for Mr. Hollis at this time?
I know he's answered all our questions.
Good. Board members, any questions for Mr. Hollis?
Mr. Howells, if I missed, I apologize. Did you say number 4, paragraph 4 was going to be addressed in the engineer's report? But the 30.9% to 7.9%
I've actually,
increase?
it's actually revised on his drawing now.
Yeah, he's a major, it's a statement more that they're now a major development, they agree to that.
Question about the fencing.
Oh, yes, that's a good question. Because I forgot to skip my mind.
I was going to ask why the fencing can't meet the zoning requirements. Why does it need to be taller? Is there something about the property? Is there something about just the way you want to design the fences? But what is causing the variance request for the fencing?
On the wall detail on the front, is that?
It looks like both a variance is needed for the front yard more than 4 feet, as well as what you were indicating is over 10 feet. I mean, I'm just
Well,
trying to read what Crystal
that's
wrote.
back here. That's just,
Right.
it's really the topography of the property. That's the function. And the reason why the wall is taller is because for security reasons, we have to put the fencing on top of the wall. So it becomes a combined situation. The wall itself, to hold back the land or the property or the soil, is only 3.5 to 4 feet. It's really that we don't want anyone to fall. If they walk down there and fall out over the wall, really. If the wall's over 30 inches tall, you need to have something on top. But the question was that the fencing around the property, and it's shown on this drawing too, is a 6-foot high board-on-board cedar fence. That's what we want to bring that to the board's attention.
That complies.
Yes, and that's the one that goes around ties into the building in the rear, and goes around Christ Church side.
Justification for the variance request for the fence height in the front of the buildings along New England Avenue is public safety.
Public safety, we have to have that fencing on top of it. And we try to make it exactly like, or not exactly, very similar to Beacon Hill,
Now, Beacon Square,
Beacon Square. But they were probably, when put that under a different code, their fencing is not as tall as what we have. This is what we're building code requirement.
Any other questions from board members? I have one other question, and I don't know if you addressed this and it went past me, I apologize. Chris Anderson, in her October 29th report, had a comment about the air conditioning condensers. Someone want to address that? Is that for Mr. Hollows, or?
it is, yes.
Okay.
They're actually shown on this drawing, and there's two per building. We have the two on the ends, and again, two on the ends. The ones in the middle will be in the islands, and where the island's a little bit wider, we're gonna have some landscaping around it. Where we're kind of tight, we probably have to put some sort of fencing around.
So the applicant is proposing to do some kind of fencing or screening?
Yes.
Okay, around all of them?
Sorry about that.
Okay.
I have a very quick question that may require an answer from you, but it's first directed to the board, and that has to do with the new Environmental Commission report that's in the package, addressing the issue of trees, which is in conflict with, its conclusion is in conflict with the forester's report, and I'm just wondering how to handle that.
Well, they're both advisory. We've had a long practice of working with our forester. I think the board has shown a high level of confidence in its opinion. No disrespect for the Environmental Commission. You have to decide if you feel that you need more plantings or not, I guess.
Dennis is correct. We typically do defer to the forester on issues like that.
Okay,
Yes,
good.
guys,
That's all I wanted to know.
I had one thing kind of on landscaping and the fencing, Mr. Hollis said. I think the condensers, it's hard to get details now because it's going to be based on what Mr. Linson said, but I think a mixture of maybe a small fence and landscaping kind of helps soften those condensers. So a lot of times somebody will put up just a piece of fencing with some plants in front of it, kind of deafens the sound and also
Agreeable to
shields it.
that?
So it's not, I think if you work with Mr. Linson and we can help with him, it's fine.
Well, but this is the second point. What did the Environmental Commission say? What do you recollect?
I was looking at it. The big issue had to do with the loss of very significant trees.
You know, that, it's, a lot of times that's a huge problem in every case. Because you can't hold off a major development project to preserve the trees. Sometimes, in some towns, we have a heritage ordinance that says the trees, it's a heritage tree, it's so old, or it's environmentally something special. What if it's a black walnut that's almost extinct or something like that? Huh?
Copper beeches or big trees.
Yeah, there's stuff, and one of the other things that we've done in the past is when we thought we were losing too many trees, we asked for as many trees to be planted as possible to recreate the canopy after the project is over. I can't give you any advice on whether or not you need to add additional trees here. You have to tell. You guys will have to suggest if you think.
I was just concerned that there was a conflict between the two reports that were advising us, and that we at least addressed it and it was on the record. So we've done that.
Yeah. Okay, I got it.
That's all.
Thank you. That was very wise.
Any other questions for Mr. Hollows from board members? Seeing none. Anybody in the audience have a question for Mr. Hollows? This is question time. Seeing none. Okay. Very good.
As I indicated to the board, Ms. Luongo is here in the event that there are any questions that anyone has for the architect. She is prepared to respond to them. The only witness that I have left is Paul Phillips to address the front yard setback issues that have been presented in Krista Anderson's memoranda. And I would ask him, having previously been sworn in this matter, to also give additional testimony.
Any lingering questions for the architect before we proceed? Yes.
As you know, I kind of missed half of that meeting and got into half of it. And I had written some questions down here and I'm not sure who gets to answer them, so I'll ask them and go from there. On page 20 in the transcript, it talks about something being, just let me get it correct, that 2.5 stories would be visually in conformance. I'm not sure I know what that means, and would like to understand that. Further on, there's a
Oh,
referral.
wait a minute, let's stop. Let's get
Do
that
one at a
answered.
time? Okay.
Yeah, who was speaking? Who's
I
speaking?
believe this is the architect.
And the architect was testifying, if I'm not
All right.
mistaken.
She's all ready to go. Go ahead. Do you need the last name spelled? She's good.
You're good?
You're all good. You're under oath. Please proceed.
Yes. The explanation and that comment was directed to the fact that it is a 3-story building on the interior of the site. But from the streetscape and from the public side of the development, you will see 2.5 stories. But in the back, because of the way the garages are below the main first floor, you have 3 stories in the back. Would you like me to refer?
I get it, okay.
All right, next question.
The height of the attics, on page 25, you're talking about, and I believe it's you again, yeah, this whole thing is you. You're reviewing for a second, the attics are not for occupancy,
Correct.
but it doesn't tell me what its height is. And, you know, there are so many places that you see that it's, you know, the family goes up and goes, gee, this could be a nice, rec room, whatever. How big are these
Page you on,
attics that
Mr.
we're talking
Steiner?
about?
What page is the?
25, he said.
45?
25.
25.
Question, it says towards the bottom of the page, just to review for 1 second, you were saying that the proposed attics are proposed not for occupancy, but are limited to storage. So if limited to storage, how are they limited to storage? Because if they're high enough, folks have a habit of using them.
First off, if I could direct you to our drawing A3, and I don't have the exhibit list, so I apologize, I don't know what exhibit that was. There's a graphic plan on that drawing for the 3-unit building, and I believe we have the same on A2 for the 5-unit building, that actually illustrates what is within the 7-foot-high headroom and the area that is from 7 to 5 feet. And the center sections are generally 12 to 16 feet. The stairs interrupt that. There is absolutely no plan. They will not be built to provide occupancy on that 3rd floor. And if a resident at some point wanted to finish that space and do something, they would have to come to the town for a building permit, which I would expect would be denied.
Because it would trigger additional FAR?
Yes.
Really excellent point, Mr. Steiner.
Keep going
Can I
here.
ask a follow-up question about the attic, since we're on the attic? Would that-
Go ahead,
would that be
please.
okay? So, why does this property or this building need an attic space, besides just the obvious benefit that people like storage?
Really for aesthetics. We have it allows us to put an attractive, appropriate roof pitch on the building. I would also mention another reason you would not be able to put a bedroom up there is the windows that we are installing in those dormers do not meet egress for a bedroom. So that's another reason. And primarily it's for the aesthetics.
So I could put a condition on it that says the attic space is to be limited to storage, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Good.
Okay, my last one goes to Mr. Phillips, and as he's coming back, why don't I just
Wait for
Okay.
Mr. Phillips, all right.
Just if I could, Mr. Chairman, the area where Ms. Luongo was talking about the attic on the transcript was around 100 to 103, Mr. Steiner. You said 25?
I have it as page 25.
Hey, you know what? Doesn't matter. Let's move on. Mr. Phillips, come on, let's go.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lawler.
Raise your right, oh, you're ready, under oath, Mr. Phillips, fire away.
Sorry.
Guide us along this path on this front yard.
So, I'm here to address again the front yard setback in light of some additional information that was provided by Krista Anderson. And again, just to put it in context, that the applicant is proposing a front yard setback of 22.7 feet at its closest point to New England Avenue. 50 foot is the requirement. I think there's several things that the board should keep in mind. First, the setback, as you can see from A12, actually varies along the frontage, and the 22.7 feet is at the closest point. As you see where New England Avenue starts to bend, that setback actually increases to roughly just about 35 feet. So it's just under 23 feet at the closest point to roughly 35 feet at its greatest separation and distance. Second, the building setback, again proposed at pretty much the closest point, is consistent with the setback for Beacon Square, which is the development just across New England Avenue at the corner of Springfield Avenue. That setback in Krister's memos is roughly about 23.5 feet. We're just under 23 feet. It's reasonably consistent. And apparently, Beacon Square was built in the 1980s, and at the time it was built, the setback for townhouses, which is provided in Krista's memo dated today, was 25 feet. So I can't say why it was 23.5 feet at the time of the approval, but it's pretty close to the standard of 25 feet. And again, as you heard during the course of these proceedings, the applicant's intent was to pretty much design this project to mirror Beacon Square with a similar wall placement, a similar setback, together with a series of steps in the front. The other thing I think to consider, and this was touched upon to some extent by me at the prior hearing, is that we're basically talking about 5 townhouses directly fronting the street, where the immediately adjacent lands on either side are basically open and unoccupied. As I mentioned, you have the church parking lot on one side, and then you have the monastery lawn area on the other side, so that you don't have effectively a very long or lengthy mass of buildings closer to the street line than what the zoning basically envisions. I think the fact that the street also bends, New England Avenue bends away as you go to the west, actually provides for greater separation to the nearest apartments, which I think is the New England Gardens, which I think is basically in this area here. So you do have that separation across the street as well as directly on either side of the property. And then lastly, and again, this sort of kind of goes to the C2 variance that I testified to at the prior hearing, and again, in looking at the merits of the front setback variance relief sought, remember that the applicant, in its attempts to basically maximize privacy to the convent, basically proposed the lot line adjustment in the rear. And while the setback in the rear is deficient, the setback to the monastery wall is actually greater than the 35-foot setback, which is the standard for the MF district. It's roughly just under 40 feet to about 50 feet, again, given the angle of the property line of the monastery and the monastery wall. So again, I think that also can be taken into account when looking at this variance. I also think it's compelling when you look at the research that Krista did in her, and which she put forth in her 11/5/18 memorandum to the board. To me, I think what's sort of most compelling is that, and I'm sort of rounding in terms of decades, but in the 1950s and 1960s, apparently this was in another district, probably a garden apartment district, because they were built first on New England Avenue. And the setback for the garden apartments at the time was 35 feet. Then in the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s, the front yard setback was basically, there were two front yard setbacks in what then became the MF zone, which is currently properties in the MF zone. There was a 50-foot setback for garden apartments, but there was a 25-foot setback for townhouses. And Krista goes on to say that in, looks like 2003, apartments and townhouses were sort of lumped together for some reason, and the 50-foot setback for the apartments was then applied to either residential, multifamily residential prototype. And she indicates, again, which I think is illuminating, that she was the zoning officer at the time. She has no memory of any specific reason as to why this was done, nor did she see or recall any recommendation in the master plan documentation as to why this was done. And again, I think what's important here is the applicant is pretty much seeking to comport with what was the townhouse standard at the time Beacon Square was built in the 1980s. It was 25 feet, and again, the applicant is seeking a setback ranging from just under 23 feet to, as much as 35 feet along the front setback line. So for all those reasons, I continue, as I did at the prior meeting, believe that there's a legitimate basis on C2 grounds to grant this setback variance in connection with this application.
I know Mr. Phillips at the last hearing, he testified that the site was particularly suited to receive the proposed improvement. And recognizing that this is not a use variance where particular suitability might be evidence of or satisfy the positive criteria, is particular suitability useful in determining the substantiality of any potential negative impact?
I think that it is, and I think for the reasons that I expressed at the prior hearing, notwithstanding the fact that we're not seeking a D1 use variance, the site is unique, as I noted, given its surrounding context, given the fact that it has one sort of remnant single-family dwelling, the only one that currently exists on New England Avenue. So certainly, I think suitability comes into play in terms of the proof requirements as you articulate.
I have no further questions of Mr. Phillips, and would submit it to the examination of the board, members of the interested public, and the experts.
Any questions from Mr. Phillips from board members or from Mr. Novak? I don't know if you have anything.
Just maybe one or two questions.
Sure, go ahead,
And
please.
for those of you who haven't been able to say hi to, my name is Dave Novak, covering for Mr. Snikes tonight. Thank you very much for your testimony. Were you able to look at what the setback of the church is to the south of the property?
I didn't calculate it, but it's based on my review of the aerials. It does appear to be larger than the minimum 22.7 feet that we're seeking.
Would you say it's roughly around 30 feet or so?
I would say maybe roughly 35. I think it's actually a little bit more.
Okay.
Again, I'm just looking at aerials. I didn't measure it.
And based on the information that was provided by the zoning officer, would you agree that if you're turning onto New England Ave from Springfield Ave, it typically seems like the buildings are a little bit closer to the front property lines in that area, and they generally spread out as you go further west?
I think that's a fair statement, and that would also be consistent with the historical zoning where the garden apartment setback went from 35 feet to as much as 50 feet. And then for townhouse developments, including Beacon Square, it was then reduced down to 25 feet.
And in your review, you saw no reference in the master plan or the re-examination report to the rationale behind that setback?
I did not, nor did Krista, apparently.
We did not see anything either. One last thing that I just noticed while I was looking at this, which isn't really a planning issue, but I think there might be a typo in the zoning table. Identifies that there's a variance required for lot coverage at 67.9%, and I believe that the required, or the permitted coverage is 70%.
I don't believe, I can go back and double check, but I didn't believe when I originally looked at this application that we needed a coverage variance. Is that accurate? That's my recollection. I think you're correct that we do not need a coverage variance.
Yeah, I don't recall Krista.
And it was
pointing that out.
not in any of our reviews, and I double-checked all the zoning before this, so I think it might just be It wasn't on the last plan, so I think it might have just been, actually, on the last plan, it looked like it was whited out, so I think it might have just been something that got lost in the shuffle.
Okay.
But no additional questions at this time, thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
I have one question. Chris, in her latest report, well, her report from last week, October 29th, raises the affordable housing issue again. I forget should we address that at the prior hearing, or can we respond to her comment?
We've addressed it many times, Mr. Chairman. And, I believe that Mr. Galvin gave advice on that, and I would never presume to even try and repeat what he said.
Then I'll ask
Oh,
Mr.
boy.
The answer was that it is a deferral to
To the
the
common
governing
council.
body, and that the governing body has exclusive responsibility to it, and that the applicant has consented to carry it as a condition of approval, and will address the issue directly with the governing body.
So that is sounding very familiar now that I hear you say that, so just make sure that we have
They
that.
didn't have it down, though.
Okay. So we're essentially punting at the common council, for lack of a better.
You're not punting, you just don't have the.
We don't have the authority.
Okay.
No, that's the Penn's answer also. The city intends that, what's the amount of the affordable housing? Is it 10%?
It was 20%.
20%, you're gonna provide, so you're gonna provide a 20%,
Comply with
something.
whatever instruction the.
Well, this is related to the date of the application, and the number is different today than it was then, and they're going for the 1.6
Correct.
that it used to be, and not the 2.0 that it would be today, if I remember correctly.
That is,
And they would like to do that by monetary means, but all of that is council, not us, as I understood your recommendation the last.
That sounds right. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from board members? I'm
And
sorry.
I asked, again, this was what I came out from the transcript the last time, and I'm just going to ask you, can FAR, we're going from what's allowable at 40-something to over 88%, and I did not understand it, so can I just ask you to explain it to me, how we're doing this? You're requesting a change from, you're requesting to do 88%
Right.
when the allowable is 40-something.
I think that it might be helpful to have Ms. Luongo refresh the board's recollection on that point, and then have Mr. Phillips follow up to the extent that he thinks it's necessary from a planning perspective. Because she was the one.
It was in his testimony, but that's fine.
Well, I mean, I'll attempt to, part of the testimony they gave with regard to the FAR is that, I talked about what it is intended to regulate, principally intensity of use, and then secondarily the building mass. And again, following up on the architect's testimony, which I think was most important here, and the other point is that in my own experience, density is typically the control for residential and multifamily residential as opposed to FAR, and then we couldn't calculate the FAR of the comparable projects. It was easy to calculate density, but tougher to calculate FAR. But I think the key point here was that the bulk of the FAR, well over half of the FAR that we were proposing here related to the garage, or the garage level of the building and the attic level. And also that we made the point that the garages were not mandated in the MF zone, such that presumably the floor area for the garages was not accounted for in that 40% threshold. And I think that was sort of the crux of my testimony. In addition, I think I did mention, again, piggybacking on the architect's comments, that I thought that the square footage of the units, and particularly the habitable area, if you take out the attic and the garage space, was not sort of unreasonable or out of line for the product that was being sought here in terms of the square footage of the units. and I didn't see them as being, for a luxury multifamily product in the city of Summit, I didn't see the FARs as being, or the square footages of designs of the buildings being overwhelming or obsessive. That was the crux of my testimony.
A couple of follow-up questions for Mr. Phillips, if I may, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Phillips, in your opinion, is a garage necessary for a luxury transitional housing?
I think it is, and certainly in this city, it sure is.
Attached garage?
Correct.
And does the topography of the site play into the calculation of the FAR with regard to the FAR and height?
It does, as was explained both by our engineer and architect, given the topography. I mean, the other thing I think I couldn't calculate FAR, I couldn't get the FARs for the comparable projects, but I did do site visits and look at aerials, and I did indicate and testify on the record that I seriously doubted that the projects that exist on New England Avenue today would come anywhere near to meeting that 40% FAR. It was just impossible to go out and document that. But I was trying to make the case that, and particularly the townhouse developments, that what we would propose was not out of character, out of context with sort of the built condition along New England Avenue.
And your density analysis demonstrated that the proposed project was less dense than any of the other projects around,
The
correct?
density would be the least dense of all the projects that currently exist on New England Avenue, whether it be garden apartments or townhouses. This would be the lowest density.
Now, Mr. Chairman, through you, Mr. Steiner, if you need any more on FAR, Karen Longo will be glad to supplement Mr. Phillips'.
If she wishes to, otherwise I'm fine.
That's good.
Okay.
No, I have one question. So basically, it's your opinion that both the density and the height this site can accommodate those deviations?
Yes, based on the Grosso and Randolph Town Center cases, as I testified at the initial hearing, Mr. Galvin.
It's all right. I can't remember my conditions. It's okay.
Any other questions from board members for Mr. Phillips? Okay, seeing none. Anybody in the audience have a question for this witness? Again, seeing none. Okay.
Thank you.
Sue, was there anything else?
Audience participation. The case is rested, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Anybody in the audience want to tell us what they think about this case, pro or con? Seeing none. Okay. Anything in conclusion?
If I may. I know the board members have been very patient with this application, and it has had its full measure of consideration, both by the Department of Community Services and the board itself. And for that, the applicant and I personally thank the board and the members of the Department of Community Services. The applicant has met with neighbors and has had open-door meetings open to all to preview and discuss this application. No objectors have appeared, notwithstanding a significant number of required notices being sent. In fact, the two immediate neighbors have joined in the sale of property to create the land on which the development is proposed. The applicant has requested 3 D variances and a number of C variances. D variances are for density, height, and floor area ratio. The C variances are for rear yard, front yard, and side yard relief. Additional C variances relative to the height of walls and a wall sign developed during the presentations on the application have also been added. The D variances are not for an unpermitted use, but rather request relief that the cases have determined by demonstrating that the property can receive the non-conforming condition requested and that any negative impact or problems associated with the nonconformity can be accommodated on the site. See Grosso versus Spring Lake, 375 New Jersey Super 41, an appellate division case of 2004 with reference to height variances. See Randolph versus Township of Randolph, 324 New Jersey Super 412, an appellate division case decided in 1999 for FAR variances. And finally, see Grubbs versus Slothauer, 389 New Jersey Super 377, the Appellate Division case decided in 2007, dealing with the issues of a density variance. What has necessitated the relief in these areas? The need for this type of luxury transitional housing, coupled with the fact, as testified to by the planner, that the proposed project is the least dense in the area combined with the requirement for attached garage space for 2 cars in the luxury townhouse market, as testified to by the architect, the planner, and the engineer, and the 20-foot grade change in the topography of the site. And finally, the combination of these facts, when applied to the site in question, creates a non-conforming height and floor area ratio, since the garages are all included in the FAR, since they are not required in the MF district on the B building, and the aesthetic aspect of the roof also includes to some degree in the height of the attic in the FAR calculation. The question is, can the site accommodate any negative impact or problem associated with these nonconformities? In answer to the question as to whether the site can accommodate any negative impact or problem associated with these nonconformities, I ask you to consider the west elevation, which in Building A presents a structure that is less than 35 feet high when viewed from the street, and which masks the nonconformities in height and FAR from public view from New England Avenue. That is the elevation on the top left-hand side as you face the exhibit. In fact, these nonconformities in height and FAR are in essence viewed internally from the driveway behind Building A and behind Building B. If you are concerned with how this development will settle in, all one needs to do is look across the street and consider how Beacon Square has settled in. It is submitted that the site can well accommodate any problem associated with or flowing from the requested relief from the strict application of the FAR height and density standards. The C variances are characterized by the double subdivision deemed necessary to confirm and protect the privacy of the cloistered monastery to the east, and by the existing context of the surrounding neighborhood. In the double subdivision, 25 feet was taken from the rear yard of Lot 4 and added to Lot 1. This drives the rear yard and front yard variances that are requested. The context of the surrounding neighborhood determines the impact of the variance relief requested. By reason of existing conditions, the proposed property is surrounded on the east, north, and south by institutional uses that have been in existence for close to 100 years each and are unlikely to change. On the west side, the property adjoins a wide street developed along its westerly side by townhomes and garden apartments with various setbacks and higher density. The isolated lot and the privacy for the monastery drive the side yard variances, and the context of the neighborhood demonstrates and predicts what impact they would have if granted. The required positive and negative proof. Positive criteria demonstrates that it serves the public good by providing needed housing for luxury transition, and it assures privacy for the monastery of the Dominican nuns. The negative criteria require proof that no substantial negative impact on public good. The proposal does not negatively impact light, air, or real estate value. There are no neighbors in opposition. No one has appeared in interest. There must be a demonstration that there is no substantial impairment to the intent and purpose of the master plan or zoning ordinance. This is an isolated lot on 3 sides. The context of the neighborhood and the bend in the roadway act as a mitigating force for yard variances to the extent that the impact could not be considered substantial. The result is that this project excuse me, would complete the development in the MF zone along New England Avenue. With the conditions of approval, among which are agreement to abide by the fire chief's request to sprinkle the buildings and to abide by council's determination on satisfying the affordable housing requirement, this application is enthusiastically commended to the board for approval. I thank you for your patience in this regard.
Thank you, Mr. Sheehan. Okay, I suspect we have a lengthy list of conditions, which we should review, right?
I'm ready to go through 'em.
Okay.
First, tree protection zones must be protective of the drip lines of the trees being preserved. Next, the light being requested is to be approved by the board's engineer to ensure that the light bulbs are not visible. Compliance with the board's engineering report. Next, obtain treatment works approval for the sanitary sewer extension. Does that sound right?
Correct.
Add screening to the air conditioners, and the location shall be along the garage area adjacent to the doors in the island. And you want to?
Either end of both buildings.
What's that?
On either end of both buildings also.
On either end. Both buildings.
Then they should be screened with a mixture of both fencing and landscaping.
In consultation with the board's engineer.
And boards, and the, forester.
You want just the forester?
No, I think it's both because there's a fence involved.
All right. Next, the applicant is to have a fence on the wall, and it must be reviewed and approved by the board's engineer. Next, the applicant must obtain approval from the fire chief demonstrating the ability of a fire truck to enter the property. Next, the attic is only be used for storage and never for occupancy. Is there a sign? The logo on the sign will be conforming. Okay. Next, the landscaping plan must be confirmed by the city foresters. Next, the applicant agreed to comply with with the city fire official's letter. In other words, and I mean the sprinkling that's in the letter. Next, the applicant must shield the lighting on the church side. Is that similar to what I already said?
Yes.
19, the board reserves the lighting and landscaping jurisdiction for a period of 2 years from the issuance of the certificate of occupancy. Next, the attic space to be limited to storage only. And finally, the applicant acknowledges its affordable housing obligation but desires to make a contribution in lieu and must seek the council's authorization of that request.
The walls, the makeup of the walls, the two walls that are poured in place concrete will be similar in materials to the buildings. And then the only other thing I'd say is the two modular block walls will be similar in color. You don't want, say.
You got to repeat yourself. The walls
So
are,
the two poured concrete walls, or the walls that are poured concrete will be similar finish to the buildings.
I got that one.
And the modular block walls will be similar in color to the buildings.
I'm good. Thank you.
That's all I have.
No? Anything else?
I can't think of anything.
Okay.
All right. A lengthy list. Okay, who'd like to begin deliberations on this one? Somebody?
I'll kick us off, sure.
Thank you, Stephen.
Get us through the evening. From what I've seen at this meeting and in reading the prior testimony, I feel like the applicant has taken great strides to especially be sensitive to the engineer's letter, which, as a board member, I'm thankful addresses a number of technical attributes of the application that I'm not necessarily comfortable myself. So I could see myself approving this application.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
I'm very much torn on this one because it's a lot of stuff. I mean, the double FAR is still bothering me a little bit. I'm glad to see the sprinklers. I wonder about the need for 2 car garages when you're as close to the train station as you are. The upstairs usage, I just have a feeling, with a stairwell in the middle of it, it's going to wind up getting used. But I do have to indicate that the church was here early on, if I remember correctly, and approved it and enthusiastically did it. And the Dominican nuns have also cooperated and to a great extent in doing this. So I'm still torn, but I'm willing to listen.
Okay.
I want to just,
Sure.
I'm also torn, Mr. Schneider, about this application. I think that everyone has been incredibly detailed in responding to all the very many requests and questions. But it has felt to me from the beginning that we're trying to shoehorn a larger project into a smaller space. And that's what's actually generated a lot of the questions and issues. So I am torn, and I'd like to hear more from the board.
Anybody else?
I'm wondering if it would be helpful if, and this, we may have done this last time, I don't recall, but knowing if the garage area and the attic area were removed, what the FAR calculation would be on the basis of living space and whether that would be in any way helpful.
Reduces it by 29%.
Is your answer? But it changes the design, right?
Ruins the project.
No, I'm not asking to have it removed. It's just to think about it in 2 pieces. Because the point that you made was that much of the FAR gave the additional square footage came from an attic which will only be used forever for storage and garages that are underneath these buildings.
So
Yeah.
if I can rephrase what you're saying, I think what you're saying is that then 29% of the FAR is due to attic space, which, if we buy the argument, is aesthetically pleasing, and garage space, which, if we buy the argument, is necessary to make it an attractive project.
And also keeps cars off of the, invisible to neighbors and off the street. And I'd add one other thing, as you've heard from me before, that I like pitches on roofs that are consistent with the historic nature of the town, that it matters.
So, but if those two were not part of that, a part of the FAR, we would still be looking at 59 and a 40.
It would still be a variance.
It's 59 and a 40, so we're 19 over without the items that are requested.
you weigh that against the testimony that
Yeah,
this
I-
really isn't in terms of the neighborhood, the other projects in the neighborhood, it's not an overbearingly large project in terms of what else is surrounding it. Which doesn't mean we have to grant it, but it's not like it's significantly different from the other projects.
Did we ever find out when the FAR got put into this mix and whether or not the other developments met it? I know that that was a question that got asked along the line, and I know we get hung up on the setbacks, but
I'm not really sure. I mean, a lot of historical work was done here, but I don't know that we have the answer to that either. But there was testimony to the fact that it previously, at some point in time, it was a garden apartment zone.
I know, I represented the developer in Beacon Square, and I know that he had an FAR variance. The FAR in Summit goes back a long, long time.
Again, I think you have to look, I don't think, trying to give you the right advice. Do you feel this site is particularly suited for this use? That's the offered reason for approving this. And I don't think it matters what happened historically in the sense that we're trying to work with today's zoning ordinance. Our direction is to try to get everything to be as conforming as possible. But occasionally you get a case that's unique and you have to figure out if this is where you make, you feel that the benefit to the community is greater than the detriment.
I'd say two more things that I recall from the last time we talked about this. And that is that this project is not terribly different from the Beacon project across the street, which is, 20+ years old, either in terms of the setback or the FAR. And it's a very, very attractive residential
And they're offering you, they're saying it's something that's consistent with the neighborhood, but you still have to, our job is to try to define to follow what the governing body wants us to do. There are times when neighborhoods change and because we want to change them. And we're not limited to what exists there. So you have, again, if you feel you have good reasons and you like it, you can make an argument for it to your fellow board members. So.
One of the things that made me feel better about it was when I read in the last transcript about the combining of Lot 1 and 5. Because basically what that says is, this isn't going to be a case where this type of development is going to start moving all the way down New England Avenue, which is kind of on my mind. Can someone confirm with me that those two lots are going to be merged? So that Lot 5...
We're going to add that. That was said, but I don't know why.
How does that happen and how...
It's done by deed and it'll happen before the building, before the building permit's issued.
So
it's
we'll
a requirement.
we'll add that as a condition?
The applicant will file a deed of consolidation prior to building permit.
That's a yes, Mr. Sheehan?
Should be observed that the lot area in resulting Lot 5 was used in the variance approval to support the FAR and lot coverages for the addition to the monastery that's currently being built. It's not going to be, it can't be separated. It will be consolidated, but even if it wasn't consolidated, it still is tied to the other development and couldn't be used for another purpose.
So you're saying that in time the sisters couldn't sell Lot 5 separately for another development?
Exactly.
The other thing is you're worried about precedents, that if we do this and that the next one, and one of the absolutes of zoning law is that we take each case on its own merits. So you should not feel compelled to approve this because of a prior case, or be concerned that what you do will force your hand in the next case. And one of my boards made a decision like that, which was just affirmed today. The attorney for the applicant made a really good argument that, hey, you did these couple of approvals, you got to give us this one. And the court recognized that time-honored rule that each case turns on its own merits.
Any other thoughts?
I'll just give one more thought, just for to answer that question. You may, because this could get confusing later on, you may ask him to file not only deed and map. If they're not required to do it unless you ask them.
What would be the
That
advantage of,
helps.
what's the
What?
advantage of that?
So 20 years from now, when none of us are here, and you read it, when you read back on a deed, it becomes much more difficult to follow. Somebody has to plot it, and there's a lot of questions answered, and a lot of notes that are on here. If we don't maintain, if this is not maintained in City Hall, which could happen,
He's asking if you would file the,
just follow, not only deed, follow map. too.
file the map.
Sure. Yes.
Okay,
This just makes it much more clear for later on.
okay.
Don't we get a GIS something or other, the whole thing at the end?
Yeah, that's part becomes, if they file the map, they have to get a digital copy.
You know, it's the same thing that sometimes we do when we record a deed,
Okay.
a resolution. I'm not suggesting that here, but it's the same type of thing, though. When it goes into our records, when it goes into our record, that's the one thing that's been solid for 200 years. Or 250, I'm losing track.
Didn't know you were that old.
I won't,
Yeah.
I won't be here for 300.
All right. Any other
It was
deliberative?
200 when I was a kid.
Any other deliberative comments, questions, discussion?
I tend to lean towards approving, I mean, I have conflicts like some of the other board members, but all.
Let's change that word to difficulties.
Difficulties.
Thank you.
Yes, if you have conflict, you would be sitting there.
All the experts have come back, I think, 3 times now, and addressed and readdressed the issues that were concerns, not only of ours, but of Krista Anderson. The board engineer seems to concur and make me personally feel a little bit more comfortable with some of the issues. I am concerned, we can't project what's going to happen with those attics, although I know what will happen with those attics. I am concerned about those attics. Just saying. Mr. Steiner makes a point about the parking. We do need, because you have to have 2-car garages are almost a must. Could maybe 1-car garages, I mean, my concerns lie, similar, but I think hearing enough and the project would be similar to across the street. If you could, spare one, I would tend to, but I am concerned about the I think that should be, I don't know how else we can go about that. It could be, there's a condition not to use the attics as living space. I mean, is there a way not to have an attic, but aesthetically have it look like there's an attic?
The reality, I mean, my response earlier really was different. One, there is going to be a condition for approval.
Sure.
So, someone ultimately.
Karen, I'm having trouble hearing you.
I'm sorry. Ultimately, when somebody purchases these units, they decide, oh, well, let's finish it off, they have to go for a building permit. And when they go for the building permit, the very first thing that's going to happen is they're going to pull out the resolution of approval and see that it is prohibited. And that's where it'll stop right there. So you actually have a very, very strong protection in the resolution if it becomes approved.
Yeah.
The other issue is, we do not have windows that meet the egress code to put a bedroom up there. So even if somebody overlooked it, once the building permit reviewed, once the building department reviewed it, it would be denied at that level.
And human nature is people do things, we don't think they're going to go for a permit to ask permission to
But I
somebody.
think some, when
No.
you want to sell it, it would get caught.
We can debate this.
We're not going to debate that because we got 2 more cases.
Yeah, so let's,
So-
unless someone has anything different to say,
I guess I'm still torn, granted with the affordable housing, and I know it goes to the common council, but I guess because it wasn't even considered in your plan, that's why I'm torn.
All right, I'll say that I support this, and I'm going to tell you why. I look at the, what's there, and this property will be developed, if not by this developer, somebody else. And I think the way we need to look at this is this a good plan? And I think it's an excellent plan for this property.
So, just move things along, I'll ask for a motion to approve?
To approve.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Vice Chairman Osowski,
Yes?
Mr. Adair,
Yes.
Mr. Steiner,
Yes.
Mr. Spur,
Yes.
Ms. Newell,
No.
Ms. Bloomberger,
Yes.
Chairman Yuko.
Yes. Okay. Let's take a very short break. We still have a lot to do tonight, but let's take a 5-minute break. It's a good time for that.
That's right, she's
Okay.
Giants fan. She throws up all the Super Bowls in my face. I'm like, that's not fair, you can't do that.
We're back on the record for AHS Hospital Corp. 99 Beauvoir. Before we start, I've been asked by the gentleman doing the broadcast that we use our microphones, please, while we're asking questions or speaking to the public. So that's just a request. Mr. Sheehan.
Mr. Chairman, once again, can we confirm voting members, please?
Yes, please, let's do that.
Mr. Nicole will do that.
Chairman Yuko, Mr. Adair, Mr. Steiner, Mr. Spur, Ms. Bloomberger, Ms. Schwartzstein, and Ms. Hensel.
So Ms. Newell is recused.
Is that 7?
Yeah, that's seven.
All right.
We have 2 board members who will be listening and participating, but will not be voting.
Okay. As long as we have 7 voting members.
Right.
Okay. This is the second hearing, for the record, Bartholomew A. Sheehan Jr., appearing on behalf of Dempsey, Dempsey, and Sheehan attorneys for the applicant in this matter. This is the second hearing to respond to questions of the board regarding the employee south parking structure raised at the September 26, 2018 meeting of the Board of Adjustment. In the intervening period of time, the applicant took the opportunity to revise the plans and resubmit by October 17, 2018, responding to the issue surrounding the mass of the parking structure, and in addition to that, addressing the applicants and the applicant addressed the city engineer's report of the revised engineering plans to address each of the 88 paragraphs of the city engineer's review. Mr. Iannelli is here this evening to comment and to respond to any questions that might come up for him to appropriately address. Mr. Hippolytus is here and can confirm to the degree to which the revisions to the engineering plans satisfy the city engineer's comments. Krista Anderson's one-page review of the revised plans questions a lighting detail for the parking structure. That has been the subject of substantial testimony by Keith Kammerer at the September 17th, 2018 meeting at page 52, line 24 to page 55, line 1. He began explaining the lighting plan for the garage and testified as to the light fixtures to be employed. See item 24 on the first disc index. He will reprise this presentation briefly and will conclude with a response to questions concerning the mass and off-site visibility of the employee south parking structure. The last witness will be the planner, David Carlbach, presenting on the planning proofs of positive and negative criteria required in support of the relief required by the law. If there are any questions at this time before we begin, I'd be glad to try and answer them. If not, I would ask Mr. Iannelli to step forward and to... No, you. All right. Mr. Kammerer is going to handle the testimony with regard to the changes to the plans. And if there are no questions, I would ask him, having previously been sworn in the matter, to present the testimony with respect to the revisions to the plans to address the massing and visibility of the south parking structure. We'll see what engineering details are required after that.
Okay, please proceed.
Good to go?
No, not yet.
Oh.
For the record, a revised disc reflecting all of the materials on the first disc, plus additional materials, which will be the subject of testimony this evening, has been pre-marked A4 of these proceedings. A manifest or an index of the second disc will be provided to the Secretary of the Board for distribution. It's just not ready this evening.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Mr. Cameron, it's yours.
All right, thank you. As you recall, when I testified back in September, we put together a summary of each of the proposed projects, A through E. We submitted revisions in October, as was mentioned. And what I just wanted to do briefly before we got onto the garage project specifically was go through some of the key issues, the key highlights of things that had changed previously. So the first project was the Children's Center expansion, and I'm not going to go through all of these, but I will note that
Can
item
I
number...
stop you for 1 second?
Sure.
Is anybody in the public here concerned with the hospital case? Okay, all right, go ahead.
Item number 2 is highlighted in green, and I can see that the clarity of the green is not as eye-popping as it was intended. So I'll just point out that that's the only one on this list that has changed. And if you recall, that's the FAR, which is at 8341 as submitted in October. Prior to that, it was a little bit higher in our last discussion, in our last meeting.
All right, go back for a second.
Sure.
The green line says total FAR, is that the green line?
The total FAR for this project is 8,341.
Thank you, go ahead, go ahead, go.
And I've included the plan. The plan is very similar to what was presented at the last meeting. It's reduced by about 400 square feet primarily in this area, in the front area as well, but the organization of the plan is identical in all aspects, although there's been some minor wall changes throughout the plan. So, moving on to the labor and delivery, which again was a 6th-floor addition up on the 6th-floor roof. This was the one that was originally approved back with MAC 2 in the lobby addition, and there was a minor building height. It was really the roof height of the addition. It increased by about 10 inches, and that was so that the ductwork from the adjacent penthouse-mounted air handler could get in under the roof. So that was one minor adjustment, and so we have item number 4, bullet number 1 is in green, and then item number 5, reference elevations, is just the elevation of that roof elevation and the building height to that roof to the roof itself. The east vertical expansion, there was really one adjustment, which was again a roof item. We had rooftop mounted ductwork, and what we were looking to do was just pull the roof up by 2 feet to include that ductwork underneath the roof to clean the roof off. Also, you'll note in the elevations, we did not originally have roof screening. That's been added as well, and the reference elevations for the roof screening for the central air handlers that are in the center of the roof is included in the revised drawings. Now on to the south staff parking garage. I just wanted to recap several issues, and I'll hit a couple of the cleanup issues from the letter as well before we move on to some of the graphics. Again, the project summary, it's 662 space garage. Looking at item number 1, proposed parking requirements, if you recall, the primary basis, the first part of the parking load comes from the off-site parking, which was 250 spaces. There is about another 200 spaces, 100 in each of the west visitors garage and the Mac or east garage that we're trying to pull staff out of to provide 100 additional spaces for the public in each of those garages. Excuse me. Through community meetings, and we also heard it in our last meeting, we still have a fair amount of staff that are parking in adjacent neighborhoods that we're accounting for an allowance of 80 to 100 spaces of pulling those back in. And then in looking at some other demand from first shift to swing shift, we have a swing shift that'll park on site of about 485 staff, and that's an overlapping shift. So counting all of the day shift spaces, that gives us about 110 to 130 spaces of that 485 to accommodate the arriving staff for that swing shift. It also allows for some flexibility, that 100 or so during the day in winter months, to clean the upper parts of decks off of snow. And as I mentioned earlier, in the long-term plan, part of the sizing of this was to allow us for reconstruction and replacement of some of the existing decks, particularly the west visitors deck and the H parking deck, which is a staff deck along Sylvan. So I just wanted to recap those numbers to provide a backdrop for why we were at 662 and what made that number significant. As Mr. Sheehan mentioned, there was a question about the lighting of the garage, which we did. I did talk about that, and I'll just highlight for your recollection a couple of important items. The rooftop pole mounted lights do not have the boxes that shine down. They have strips of lights that are in the pole that illuminate down, which eliminates downward facing light bulbs. So that provides, it's a newer type of fixture, but it provides an opportunity to light the surface without having the downward facing light bulbs on the top of a garage that could be visible when looking up at it. The other fixture, if you recall, was the interior fixture, which I discussed comes equipped with an occupancy sensor. So in a staff garage, it's primarily being parked at one time. And then during a 6 to 8 hour shift, it's going to be generally inactive. During that period when there's no occupancy sense, the lighting will dim 20%. And then it'll only, as somebody comes in or as somebody drives in, only those lights that sense the car or the person would increase. Additionally, the lenses on those lights are specifically made to throw light horizontally so that you can pull them inboard from the exterior a little bit further, therefore also eliminating the looking up and seeing the bottom of a fixture as you're looking up from down below.
Those lighting details were included in the plans that were filed with the board at the initial filing of the application, correct?
Correct. They were on page 24 of the previous presentation. I will note that we also, on the east stair wall and on the main elevator stair, we lowered those walls by 4 feet, just from a sensitivity standpoint, trying to minimize, the visibility of the garage. Let's see, I'll point out one other area that was brought up in the engineer's report. There was a question about when you enter from Lower Overlook Road, you're actually on sea level. And it's a two bay width of the garage. The southern or eastern bay is sloped, the inboard bay is flat. So it's kind of a corkscrew, and you go all the way up. Because of the way the plans were cut, it appeared like you couldn't get to the next level, but that's just it's a drawing issue. There's, from the sea level when you come in, if you park right inside the gate, you can still walk up and get to the elevators and drive your car up. So it's a continuous drive or walk all the way up. So all levels are accessible for pedestrians and/or for handicapped persons. We've organized the handicap spaces right by the elevator. There's 2 spaces on each level on either side of the entrance to the elevator area to keep the accessible spaces close to where they don't have to cross traffic, and also where they're as close to the elevator as possible.
Can I just jump in on that? We've looked at that, we've talked to them, we're fine with that. They trust that.
Thank you.
So what were some of the other comments that we wanted to react to? There was, I think, a confirmation of project phasing that was also brought up by the engineer. There was some, I think, rather good comments that were brought up at the last presentation, and I'll have to say that I think we failed to give you a good enough view of what the garage landscaping and all those things were supposed to be. So I felt like we needed to give you better graphics to really understand what we're looking at, and we also did some other things that you'll see in the video coming up shortly. Some of the comments that I thought were interesting and that we tried to react to was the loss of the secondary buffer, which were those trees that are on the garage site itself. The fact that they do provide a buffer, especially from Henry Avenue side, where you're sort of looking through the trunks of the trees in the winter months. Breakdown of the visual massing of the building, visibility from East Summit, and as I mentioned, visibility in item number E from the neighborhood as well. So how did we address some of those things? The secondary buffer, we had the green giant arborvitae buffer along the south or east elevation along Lower Overlook Road, but it really didn't show up very well in our landscaping plan or in any elevations, and it doesn't really show up very well in what we submitted to you, but we'll show you give you a good look at what it looks like today. The other thing we took a hard look at was some of the existing trees, specifically one in particular, which is right at the corner of Overlook and Lower Overlook. There's about a 60-foot spruce tree that make a great Christmas tree. The elevation of it is a little bit higher than the intersection, about 10 or 12 feet. And we realized that it would really screen the garage, especially as you're driving up Lower Overlook Road or looking up Lower Overlook Road from Morris Avenue. It's a difficult thing to look up because it's not a real long stretch of road there that you see, but the tree itself was significant, so we tried to modify, and we did modify the retention basin to work around it. So some of the massing and the screening from East Summit. What didn't show up in what we presented before was some of the feature walls have a color change, which I'll show you in a moment, which breaks down the massing slightly. We actually flew some drone video flights, and the buffer on the Lower Overlook Road side is up to 80 feet tall in spots, probably averaging 65 to 70 feet from the surface of the road, that is. We tried to also address the partially visible corners that would be closest to that east side. And I'll get into items 4 and 5 as we go a little bit further. On the construction phasing, this is the garage as it extends along Lower Overlook Road. And this is a sketch that we got from Precaster that we were working with on how he would manage and construct the site. What you have up at the top is the daycare center and the daycare center play area. And in the civil engineering drawings, we had one of the construction accesses right here where our future access to Lower Overlook Road would be. That would be primarily used during grading and foundation work. Once the construction of the precast begins, it would start on the daycare center end on the east end and work to the west. And again, as I mentioned before, we have a flat plate, which is this upper plate, and then a slope plate down on next to it. So the crane would set up initially on one end, start building the building from the east end, and the crane would just slide back and keep building in the westerly direction. The trailers would come in along Lower Overlook Road and back onto the site. This is actually our 60-foot spruce tree, so we're going to modify this plan a little bit to have a little different access to work around that tree to get the trailers into the site. So the crane would be located here, and the precast pieces would be picked off the trailer on site as well. So as you can see, we can keep most of the construction within the garage itself, and it doesn't really impact, except for a little bit of an impact on one side of Lower Overlook Road. It doesn't impact a lot of what's happening around it. This is a partial site plan that was modified, and as I mentioned, this is the spruce tree that's right here on this corner. You can see this is a house that houses the Overlook Foundation now, which sits back in here, but roughly at that point and beyond would be where the garage would sit. So as we started looking at this tree, which is literally right near the corner, we felt like it would be valuable enough to try to reconfigure the retention basin. So we've actually shrunk the exterior retention basin, and where you see the dashed lines, we've actually pulled some of that retention under the flat plate of the lowest level to try to retain that tree. There's 2 stars here that are red stars. That's where you're going to see 2 drone videos. So we're going to actually take off from very close to the road, rise up, and then we're going to go over to the other side and rise up looking at the site. We'll do that twice, and then there's a third drone video that comes down the Lower Overlook Road from Morris Avenue. I just wanted to point out the green giant arborvitaes, which we have along the entire east/south wall along Lower Overlook Road. These are some samples of them. For all intents and purposes, they're giant elongated Christmas trees. And once you know what they look like, you're going to see them all over the place. I'm starting to notice them everywhere as well. So one of the things that we did have in the plan, but we really failed to show it to you, was what the impact of these had on masking the facade and also providing that secondary buffer replacing it. So we'll show that to you, I think, in the next slide. So I think I showed you a slide of the view from Lower Overlook and Overlook Road, and that's where this is. The tree is conspicuously absent. It would be sitting right here on the corner. And what you can see here with the building is some of what I was talking about changing up the color and the form just to break down the mass. That didn't really show up in what we presented last time with you. The landscaping, when initially installed, these green giant arborvitaes would probably be between 10 and 15 feet. What you're seeing there is probably about 10 feet. On the left side, we have some more traditional flowering pears and other things. There's a lot of other landscaping in here with smaller things, but my intention was really to demonstrate the buffering of the building, and not to try to show every bit of the landscaping. Between 5 and 10 years, and I should have mentioned to you when we had the photos of the green giant arborvitaes a minute ago. They're very hardy. They're deer tolerant. Deer don't like them. They're a single stalk arborvitae, so they don't split and fall apart. They grow about 3 feet a year consistently, and the maximum height is up to 60 feet. The diameter of them is probably about 10 to 12 feet, so they don't grow to 30 feet where you can only have them spaced so often, so they can be spaced a little closer together because of the tighter diameter. So what you see there is after 5 years at 3 feet per year, it'll grow another 15 feet, so between 30 and 40 feet is what you see there. And then at full maturity, they would be up to 60 feet. And you'll have to forgive me because the next one proves the point, but it's a little bit, when we put the tree in there, when I'll turn it on, with the spruce tree there. And the spruce tree is slightly different than what we're showing on this. But the point is, with everything that we're providing and leaving that existing spruce tree, it really does an effective job of buffering the garage, especially from the Henry Avenue, the Morris Avenue side, through the tree trunks in the winter primarily.
I guess that's a question on the spruce tree.
Yeah.
You're putting a detention basin next to it. So let's assume the worst case that spruce tree doesn't survive. Are you going to replant it?
I think the hospital will be committed to doing that.
I think it's important.
If you look at the site plan, we've pulled it back far enough that it's sufficiently outside the.
It's outside the drip.
Thank you. I was going to say the drip line, but I don't want to get into technical terms. So we're going to see a couple of video runs here. This is over by the children's, the daycare center, right by the entrance. And what you're seeing is the drone rising. I will point out that the drone pilot, this thing is in contact with 5 satellites at one time, so it knows exactly where it is, and it's zeroed out to roughly the roadway. Here we're over Denman Place, looking back towards the site, and we're flying about 140 feet above Lower Overlook Road for both of these views. And as we approach, you'll see the building come into shape. I will point out that the green giant arborvitaes, I specifically wanted to leave them a little more space so you could see the building a little better. That's about half of the total that would be there. And that little fog is really to give you a sense of where the trees on this side of the road were. I can go back to that if anybody wants me to look at it. Again.
Arborvitaes are portrayed at 10 years of growth in that?
These were, in that video, they're portrayed at about 40 feet. So yeah, somewhere in that 5 to 10, 8 to 10 more. Again, same thing, we're going up here, closer to I'll say the southwest side of the building, and you're seeing the corner of Morris Avenue, and then turning over to see both the intersection of Henry Glenside and Morris, and now we've just turned around. We're looking back towards the site over that same intersection as we rise up. So that was the area that was some concern about being able to see through those trees, and I think that's the area where that secondary buffer becomes most critical. So you can see, you will have the ability, if you could look through those trees, that those green giant arborvitaes will certainly fill that in on the back side of those of the deciduous trees that are on the bank there. So we're actually coming right up Lower Overlook Road. If I can stop. This is the spruce tree that we were talking about right in the foreground. So you can see how tall it is. The top of it's up to there. And then dropping in, get that out of there. Let me back up a little bit on that one. I just wanted to stop it. It kind of drops away fairly quickly. Again, Lower Overlook Road wraps around here. This is a computer modeled spruce tree. The real one is kind of taken away in this case. And we have the arborvitaes again at roughly the 10-year. They're about 40 feet there, so they will come up another 10 to 20 feet.
So I'm trying to picture this. Is it fair to say that garage, I wouldn't say it would be invisible, but it would be very difficult to see from lack of a better word, Lower Morris Avenue, where that drone was coming up from?
I think that's our intent, is that it would be completely, one of the ladies used the word secondary buffer, and I don't remember which one it was, but that was a very good way to describe it. And regardless, I know there was some issue about how large the caliper of the trees were that we were taking down, but there's enough trees there that it does provide a secondary buffer. And while we had these in the landscape plan previously, we adjusted the way they were arranged. They were more kind of marching in a row, so we thought it would be better to kind of group them in a little more natural fashion perhaps, leaving a little bit of view to the building, but essentially clustering them so that they pick up the rhythm of the natural woods that are there across the street. But we feel that it does an excellent job of essentially replacing that. I did cut off.
So the green giant arborvitaes, they are a great tree for this installation. They have modified your installation to stagger it more. And really, I think our concern was, and we pointed out last meeting, was not now, but in the wintertime when there's no trees, the only thing that screens it is the evergreen. So we had talked about a green wall or the arborvitaes. If the arborvitaes, the green giants are placed right, they're placed more towards the 15-foot high installation height, they're going to grow quick. We have sites around northern New Jersey, put them in, within 4 or 5 years, they're almost double in height, literally. So they grow great, they're a great screen. I think you'd need to keep control over it. So if they were to die, they'd need to replace them. I think that's very important, but they are a very good solution for this problem you're facing. Because from down below, you want a dense screen, because you're looking, I drove this probably 25 times since we had the last meeting, and you're looking up, and you're looking into a big hill, and you probably can't even see the top of the roof, but when there's no leaves and trees, you're going to see right up to the bottom 4 levels of that garage. So right away, with their staggering, they're going to cover that garage real well right away. And then within 4 or 5 years, it's going to cover the first 5 stories, like done. As long as they maintain it and say, hey, if one dies, we replace it, it gives you a pretty good security that it's going to be green down below. It
So,
really is.
can we address that in a condition, Mr. Galvin, or the maintenance of the screening, which seems so important?
Can we keep a 5-year jurisdiction over it? Just in case it dies that they have to replace it? We always do 2. If they agreed to it, why would they not agree to it?
I'm trying to show you the last clip. It's not cooperating with me, but this is the last clip here, which shows it from coming over the easternmost end. And I will point out that we did look at, and they don't show up, they'll show up in the next video here. We did look at adding some green buffer panels. Now I'm being vague about it. On both sides here because, and I'll just point to this sort of V area, and I think this was also on the photos that I showed you. There was just a small area where we felt like the upper part of this end of the building was going to be somewhat exposed. This was the wall that we lowered 4 feet here, and what we were looking at recommending to the hospital, because we have some different conditions up here. One is we have basically an unheated building that's going to be difficult to maintain watering in the winter. And the other most significant issue is if you've ever been up on that hill and probably up on a parking garage, there's a significant amount of wind. So we're concerned about the survivability of a green wall, a planted green wall. So what we were looking at recommending to the hospital was a laser cut panels that would be painted with a nice finish and would have an organic ivy pattern, so we'd have a permanent green wall there. They would be mounted slightly off the wall, so you get some play of light and shadows that you would get with an ivy type installation. But the intent was at least to cut the mass down on that end of the building. And as you can see over here on this side, the building chamfers, and this side actually faces the Children's Daycare Center and MAC 1 and MAC 2, so you're not even seeing it, from down the hill. The other thing is, this is only visible from really East Summit. It's probably half a mile away, and from half a mile away, I don't think you could differentiate between a live green wall and an organic type panel as we were recommending. So, again, part of what we wanted to do was really show you how we saw the project. We've tried to site this building in the most discreet part of the site. I don't think it could be any more hidden from most of the communities around the hospital.
What are the materials that you're using on the facade? I mean, it's very white, so I'm just curious if we're trying to hide it. Why is it so bright white?
Well, those could be adjusted as well. I mean, we haven't gotten to the point where we've selected final precast colors. It would probably be more of a bone or a cream than a white. It does show up a little white in this graphic for sure. But the idea in the design was, and on the far side, the other elevator tower, and you can see the back part, if I can get my arrow to come on here, there was another feature wall on the back side, was try to break down the overall mass by changing the color and changing the form so that you're not just seeing, a standard garage. And again, here, this view is from about 140 feet up, and you can see the relative level of the trees that are on the other side. Like I said, I was a little surprised we had them as high as 80 feet. I was thinking they were more like 70 with the average about 60. It ended up being about 10 feet higher than I had anticipated. I felt like it was a pretty comfortable buffer. So from that standpoint, like I said, I just wanted to emphasize to the board, I think the hospital has taken great care in locating this as discreetly as possible. As I said before, I don't think we did an adequate job of demonstrating to the board the care that we took with it in terms of the landscaping and trying to break down the massing. But with those comments that we've had, it caused us to take another look at some things and try to amplify that as much as possible to buffer it from visibility.
Can you put the cursor on the secondary buffer that you were referring to so that everybody knows exactly where it is?
That's these green giant arborvitaes, which you can just see a little piece of Lower Overlook Road. The curb line comes down here. This is our lower entrance. This is the Child Care Center roof.
What's the natural cover to the left of the green giants?
This is all the trees that are on the outboard side, the hillside of Lower Overlook Road that will remain.
And the height of those trees?
This tree is 80 feet. A lot of the other ones are in the 65 to 70 feet. And while it doesn't show up here, there's clusters. You can kind of see them here. There's clusters of evergreens. They seem to be, upon second inspection, they seem to be grouped in certain areas. So after we looked at it again, and this even showed up in my photographs in the earlier meeting, from the intersection of Henry and Glenside, you can see a little bit through there for sure, and it showed up in my photograph that I presented to you a month ago.
So those trees, the trees, existing trees to the left, they're definitely high enough. I mean, they almost block the garage if you're looking at it straight on.
Correct.
Certainly from down the hill with the angle. Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that the drone video showed is how far out away from the garage they are, which the further out they are, the sight angle becomes more and more blocked. If I would have guessed before looking at this, I would have guessed they were a little closer right to the curb line, but they actually, the highest ones do extend out another 20 or 30 feet.
The video is very effective in addressing concerns I had at the last hearing.
The applicant will consent to a 5-year reservation of jurisdiction for the arborvitae.
And we're gonna, they'll be 15 feet when they go in, so that it's not gonna be many decades before they grow up. It's gonna be.
We've researched how they're available. The range would be 12 to 15 feet.
Okay.
That would be what we're targeting.
Okay.
Yes.
So today, I think you mentioned that staff park at other parking structures on the hospital site. Will Lower Overlook Road be accessed to gain entry into the new site?
Yes, that was presented, that was discussed before, but let me go back to the, I think I might have, not to get into the civil engineer's testimony, but right now, this is what we refer to as the doctor's lot, which goes between the east wing and the main hospital. And this is what's referred to as the F lot. Right now, you can only access like the daycare center by coming around Lower Overlook Road and coming up here. This is one parking lot that's gated. So in this plan, this two-way traffic allows folks to come in from the light at Mountain Avenue and Morris, or to exit that way, and get into the upper level entrance of the garage. So when you come across here, this is one entrance of the garage, and if you, at a mid-level, if you come around from Lower Overlook Road, you can enter the garage at a lower level as well here, which is down on Lower Overlook Road. So that change allows the garage to be really interconnected with all of the other roadways in the immediate area of the hospital.
So you're saying from down on Morris Avenue, that'll be an entryway to get to lower
Cor-
overlook.
Correct, yeah. The light down here, let's see, it's kind of under this tab. This is Mountain Avenue, but when you come up from the light, you come in between these two, and you'll be able to go two-way traffic coming from or going to the garage up here at the top of the hill.
So today, that part at Lower Overlook Road and Morris Avenue isn't really used as much, would you agree?
It's used when we were out there shooting drone videos. I was surprised. It was,
I mean,
it's
by-
infrequent, but it was more than I thought. Yeah.
So at that point of Morris Avenue, though, it's really one lane.
It's Lower
lane
Overlook
going.
Road is entrance only to go up and to enter the site.
So, and you probably went over this before, but bear with me. What, if any, negative impact do you see from having an entryway for staff, many staff, different shifts going from that one-lane highway on
Well,
Morris
that
Avenue?
gets into the traffic engineer's testimony. I'm not sure I want to
Okay.
delve into that, but the traffic engineer did provide testimony on that in the last
Okay.
meeting.
He's here this evening, and if Mrs. Davis wants that question answered, he has previously been sworn, he can step in and do it if you want.
You want to hear the answer?
I would.
Okay.
Thank you.
That basically concludes my testimony.
All right,
Just
let's-
a quick question about
Yes,
the screening.
absolutely.
Sorry
No,
to
I'm
skip
sorry.
this here.
Go ahead.
No
Dispose of
problem.
this witness first.
With the inclusion of this new screening, which just solves this one problem of aesthetic really from distance, is there any adjustment required to the lighting plan of the garage now that we're eliminating some natural light that would otherwise enter the garage facility?
No, because those the lighting fixtures that are in there are on a sensor that will, has
Can
light level
accommodate.
attached to it, yeah. The fixtures are kind of like, you remember when you got your VCR and all of a sudden you could program it a year in advance? They're kind of like that now. They have, just with a couple of chips, all this technology in them. It's great technology, and you can do a lot of different things with them.
Any other questions from board members for this witness? Seeing none. Anybody in the public have a question for this witness? Seeing none. Okay, the traffic engineer to answer Ms. Davis' question.
I would ask that Dan Desario, previously sworn in this matter, step forward and respond to Mrs. Davis's questions.
You want that overall one? That one?
Good evening again, Dan Desario, D-I-S-A-R-I-O for the record with Langen Engineering. We did prepare,
Somerville, right?
yeah,
Okay. Go ahead.
Somerville? No.
Oh, what was it?
We did this last time. It was Montclair,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Um,
I knew it was someplace.
Right, and I couldn't remember that night. Traffic engineer for this application. And I think from a traffic perspective, this proposal is going to improve circulation immensely at the site. Let's see, yep. So looking at this figure today, if you want to go to a daycare center, you're limited to using Lower Overlook to get into and out of the daycare parking, which is right here. This parking lot is...
Make sure you're using that microphone.
Oh, excuse me. This parking lot is completely cut off from the daycare lot. It's completely gated. So anyone coming to the daycare facility has to come in and out of this access road onto Lower Overlook. With this proposal, this parking is going to be reconfigured. It's not going to be gated anymore, and there will be two-way traffic flow in and around all of this parking, including the proposed parking garage. What that's going to allow is not only people that are using the parking garage, giving them the ability to access the parking garage, whether they're coming in or out of the garage, to all areas of the campus. But I think more importantly, it's going to allow people that are picking up and dropping off their children at the daycare facility to have that same benefit, where now the daycare parking is going to be connected to the rest of the campus, and anyone coming to and from the daycare facility will be able to use all the interior roads that serve the overall campus to get to the daycare parking. So from an overall circulation perspective, this proposal, I think, greatly improves over the current situation as it relates to circulation.
So-
Dan, it might be helpful for Mrs. Davis if you confirm that the people who currently use the daycare center who park in lots off-site have to engage in 100% more trips or 200% more trips than they will when they park in this garage.
And the nexus of this proposal, by and large, is there's a lot of off-site parking currently that occurs. The hospital has arrangements and they lease off-site parking, and then there's shuttles that come back and forth picking up those employees that are parked remotely to bring them to the campus when they report to work, and then the opposite is true when people are leaving work. There was previous testimony that approximately 95% and maybe higher of the daycare children are children of people that work at the hospital. So if you're unfortunate to be a parent that has to park off-site, you have to come here, drive to the daycare facility, drop your child off, then leave the campus, go park remotely, then hop on a shuttle bus and come back to the campus. And then when you're at the end of your shift, you have to take a shuttle bus to your remote, where your car's parked remotely, get in your car, and then drive back to the campus to pick up your child at daycare. So one of the benefits of being able to bring all those staff members that are parking off-site to this now new proposed parking structure is that you're going to eliminate a lot of that back and forth by the parents that have children at the daycare facility. There's also going to be a reduction in the overall area because we're going to be eliminating all of that off-site parking activity that occurs, as well as the shuttle buses that are going back back and forth between the off-site parking and the campus. So from an overall perspective, in terms of traffic, I think the overall municipality is going to benefit from less trips being made because of this proposed garage.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
One follow-up. We talked about this earlier when people enter the parking garage. If there's a backup, how many cars would have to back up before it would affect municipal roads?
Oh, quite a few. As everyone knows, this overall hospital campus is up on a hill. So to get down to any public roads, I mean, it's hundreds of feet away, if not thousands of feet away, before you get to the first connection of a public intersection.
You're saying any of the backup would be handled, parking machines have a habit of breaking down gates, don't operate this, that, till you get the guy out there and all that stuff. How many cars would back up before that would be cleared up? It could be a while. Obviously, you're going to have more than one entrance, so people could change their direction and go to it. But I'm just wondering how many before we affect our local streets? 20, 15?
Well, I don't believe Lower Overlook is a public street. Now, I will defer to any of the experts that know that answer, but that's my understanding. Lower Overlook is not a public road. So in order to get down to the surrounding public streets, we're talking about several hundreds, if not thousands of feet. So within that distance, you could stack 50 to 100 cars on average before you affect any public roads.
I just wanted, there's a traffic light at Mountain Avenue and also at, what is that, Glenside, is that Glenside Avenue?
Yes.
And there's no light specifically at that entrance. So do you anticipate any backup of traffic of cars trying to get into and out of Lower Overlook Road?
So you're talking about this intersection, Lower
Right.
Overlook, and this connection?
Right.
No, I do not.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Mr. Sheehan, what witnesses do you have left?
Well, let me, before I answer your question, if I may ask Mr. Hippolyte a question.
Sure.
Mr. Hippolyte, you've reviewed and received and reviewed the revised engineering plans. Well, is there anything in your report that requires additional testimony? The applicant consents to conditions of approval of all items not identified as no longer an issue.
You know, if you consent to my October 30th letter, I don't need any more testimony. You've answered my questions, and it could be a condition of approval. I just, on the lower Overlook Road, I just want to make sure that it's still going to be one way in.
Yes.
And so, I mean, the concern of the traffic coming into this site being one way in, it works. If they were changing it to two-way, it poses a problem with your question, which is, do we need a light, do we need to modify it? And they know better than that, because they don't want to create a light there. And one way in, from a one-way in perspective, right now they're using our streets, our city streets, as their conduit to park off-site and generate twice as many trips. So the garage is now taking their traffic and putting it on their roads. The best situation for you is to take the same volume of traffic they have and keep it on their road. So if they have a backup, their garage gate doesn't work, so be it. Lower Overlook Road's gonna be pretty backed up, and people are gonna have trouble getting out. So they have
That was the reason for the question.
right. So they have a very inherent need to keep those roads free and clear. Again, I live by Morristown, but if you go to Morristown, it's a long way around to the emergency entrance, and it's certain to our roads, and they do a very good job of keeping that road open no matter what, whether it be snow or a car stuck there, and they have the same benefit here. Lower Overlook Road is very wide, so if a car was to get stuck or something happens, they can get by, man. They will keep it on their site, keep their circuit on their site, keep their daycare on their site, keep their traffic on their site. They got 2 garage entrances, and that's why our question was to make sure it's connected so you can go all the way to the top. So it's you've answered our questions. I don't need more testimony unless the board wants it.
All right, Mr. Leonelli is here. If any board member has any questions precipitated by the administrative reviews from the engineering department, he'll be glad to answer them. If not, we have one witness, the planner, whose testimony will be to the point.
Can I just go say one more thing? The panels. So the panels, we talked about having like a green wall. I do see the issue with having a green wall on this type of garage. I think with the green giant arborvitaes and the growth and the panels they're putting up there, because they make some really innovative panels now, whether they're fabric or aluminum, I think that gets that one corner, which maybe from down the other side of the site you may see, it really takes it, breaks up pretty good. I don't know if the applicant maybe plays with the concrete, maybe darkens it up a little bit, not too dark, but darkens up from not the bright white. I think that would help too, and it's easy to do. It's not really a big cost factor for them, so I think that's something the board should consider also.
So we're down to your planner.
All right, I'm going to ask that the testimony of David Carlback be given in this matter and that he be sworn for that purpose. He has not previously been sworn.
Just before I proceed, I want to talk to my attorney, my counselor for a second.
We have a dilemma, so we can share it with everybody. We wanted to get everything done tonight, but it's starting to look like it's not going to happen. By the time, no disrespect to Mr. Sheehan, Mr. Carvat, I've heard him many times, he can get it done quickly. But if we're going to continue to proceed, we're going to have to deliberate, and my best guess is it's going to take us at least a half hour to do that. I think we're getting a little crazy with the next case. There's a lot of people here that seem to be concerned about that are going to want to. You're going to want to be heard on this next case, right? And there's a limit to how much we can do. We want to be here at 11:30 or 12 o'clock tonight. I don't think there's any urgency in this. So, where's Mr. Avellino? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to be down at 11.
And I'm sorry, I really thought we could I optimistically thought we'd get through all of this tonight. It's obvious now we're not. That's,
Even if we were even hoping to get started, get at least a witness on. So, neighbors, you feel the same way? You want to get out of here, or you want to hang? What's that? I think we should.
I think we should
We're
carry.
not upsetting everyone who's.
Yeah.
I feel bad when I make this happen. Like when you stay this long, I feel bad about it.
So here, I have a question for Ms. Nicole. When could we carry this when we could put Prospect on first, so we know we're going to get to it?
December 17th.
Okay.
That would be the best bet. Otherwise, you're having it in January, pre-order, and all that.
Does that work for Mr. Avellino and your client?
Yeah, so I just have to check my schedule. Chris, can I get back to you this week? We just carry it to the 17th, and I'll just get back to you on everyone's schedule.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry for everybody who was here. I really thought we could get farther along, but, so anyway, we need to formalize that, so we need a motion, right?
So moved with notice, without notice, if appropriate.
Second?
And Mr. Avellino, you waive the time in which the board has to act?
I'm sorry?
You waive the time in which the board has to act? Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
All right, so going to be the first matter on December 17th.
So members of the public, you all heard that, December 17th? Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may address Mr. Nicola, you're working your calendar. I think that you can eliminate the need for CC, C, and K to appear.
You withdraw?
Well, yes, the answer is yes. Yes, but there's an issue that needs the consideration of the board, which is not an application. It's to correct a mistake that was made years ago.
Understood. All right, thank you, board.
Okay.
Good. Everybody good? Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm testimony about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Say your full name for the record, spell your last name.
David Carlbach, Karlebach.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Carlbach has appeared here previously and performed in minutes.
We absolutely accept his qualifications, yeah.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Thank you. Normally, I like to entertain the board with a discussion about the site and the surrounding area, but I think we're all very familiar with this area. I think the most outstanding feature of this site is its sheer size. It's 25.7 acres. That is approximately 75 times the minimum lot area requirement in the zone. And generally, when you have a lot that's that large, it affords you greater setbacks, and that's exactly what we have here. We have larger setbacks within those critical areas, especially near the south parking garage. The other feature that I'd like to mention is that steeply sloped vegetated area, okay, which is southeast of the parking garage. And I know we're all aware that those are deciduous trees, but I want to remind the board that in the wintertime, when the leaves disappear, the trees don't disappear. You still have the trunks and the branches and the twigs, and some of those deciduous trees, believe it or not, still retain some of their leaves all winter long. And if you've been hunting or camping or fishing, you're well aware of how easily you can get lost in the forest, even with the leaves off the trees. So you do have some density that's attributed to those deciduous trees, even in the wintertime. And the combination of those deciduous trees and the proposed green giant arborvitae do provide quite effective buffering. In terms of the zoning, this site is located in the PI Professional Institution Zone. It's the only PI zone within the city. Hospitals and related facilities are permitted uses in the PI zone. Now, there are a number of variances required. There are D6 variances related to the height of the proposed structures, and without going into each and every variance, they're all outlined in the application. I believe they're also in the board's professionals' reports. But the maximum permitted building height in the zone is 48 feet, and the patient transport elevator, the east wing vertical expansion, and the south staff parking structure all exceed that 48-foot requirement. There's the maximum building height elevation above sea level, 490 feet is permitted, and the patient transport elevator and the south staff parking structure exceed that requirement. And finally, there's the maximum distance between the highest and lowest point of the buildings, 53 feet is permitted, and the Children's Center expansion, the labor and delivery expansion, and the patient transport elevator, and the east wing vertical expansion all exceed that 53-foot requirement. Excuse me, also the south staff parking structure. So actually, we have 5 structures that exceed the requirement. And even though that 53-foot difference between the lowest and the highest point of the structure is somewhat of a relaxation of the standard where 48 feet is permitted, it's not that much relief in this particular instance because we do have some pretty severe topography in this area, and that's why you have all those structures exceeding the requirement. And I would remind the board that many of these height variances are duplicative. Okay, for instance, the patient transport elevator triggers 3 separate height variances for the same condition. In terms of the C variances that are required, the number of building stories that are permitted are 4, and the patient transport elevator is both 7 stories existing and proposed, and the new parking structure is 5 stories, again, where only 4 stories is permitted. Then there is the variance to permit the development of proposed improvements in an area of regulated steep slopes, and there are sign variances. There's 1 sign variance for the number of signs proposed, 1 building sign is permitted, and there are many existing signs at this site, wall signs. Only 1 additional wall sign is being proposed. Internally illuminated signs are not permitted, and the wall sign above the Children's Center entrance is internally illuminated. Now, this use is an inherently beneficial use. Hospitals have been confirmed as inherently beneficial uses by the legislature in its definition for inherently beneficial uses. And that's section 40:55D-4 of the municipal land use law specifically tells us in the definition section that hospitals qualify as inherently beneficial use. So the enhanced burden of proof as to the negative criteria under Medici is not required. Boards have an affirmative obligation to attempt to find condition to mitigate negative impacts. Boards of adjustment are directed to employ a 4-step balancing test when hearing and deciding D-variance applications for inherently beneficial uses. So I'll just very briefly go through the 4 steps. The first step is the board should identify the public interest at stake. And this language seems to suggest that certain inherently beneficial uses are more compelling than others. And as hospitals have been confirmed as inherently beneficial uses by statute, this supports its position as being very high in that hierarchy of inherently beneficial uses. The second step of the test is the board is to identify any detrimental effects that would ensue from the granting of the variance. And I haven't identified any significant detrimental effects. Adequate air, light, and open space will be maintained. There are massive setbacks to protect the nearby residences. The setback requirement in the PI zone are easily met by this application. The ordinance permits 48-foot high structures with setbacks ranging between 12 feet and 25 feet in the zone. And all the proposed improvements, although exceeding the building height requirements, nonetheless provide very generous setbacks. Now, this application is not an expansion in the traditional sense, and that the total number of beds and services provided by the hospital will not increase. In fact, it's actually a net decrease. No increase in staffing is projected. No increase in regional traffic is expected as per the traffic engineer. So this is more of a modernization and a reorganization than it is an expansion. Regarding visibility and visual impacts, and I make that distinction because just because you can see something doesn't necessarily mean it has an impact. These are very attractive buildings. So again, even though certain area of residents will garner a view of this building or these buildings from locations nearby, that doesn't mean it has an impact. The proposed expansion will present minimal, if any, visual intrusion on the neighborhood. In fact, the overall effect is to improve the visual quality of the neighborhood with new building additions, with modern architectural treatments, new landscape architectural treatments, all of which I believe will have an immediate impact on beautifying this site. The existing hospital itself is 12 stories in height, and it has been a fixture in this neighborhood for decades. I'm talking specifically about the C wing and the D wing. Area residents and travelers are already acclimated to the presence of very tall structures at this location, and the proposed improvements will not alter their perception of the site. The transport elevator is interior to the site. The labor and delivery room also, I believe, will not be visible from surrounding areas. 3 components do have some visibility, as testified to by the architect. The East Wing vertical expansion will have very limited visibility across Morris Avenue. We feel as if it's visible only to residents at the rear of the properties along Oak Ridge Avenue and not visible from Henry Street. The proposed staff garage is heavily buffered and benefits from the combination of the natural buffering and the proposed arborvitae planting. So you'll have mostly only filtered views from the surrounding area in the East Summit neighborhood. You heard testimony about the lighting, how that's proposed to minimize glare, and it has a dimming feature. It was chosen specifically for this application. And as I said, the setback requirements in the zone range from only 12 feet to 25 feet, and that's for a 48-foot high building. So compare the effects here of the proposed parking structure located a minimum of 154.6 feet away to the side lot line and 191.8 feet to the Morris Avenue right-of-way. Significantly larger setback. The massing of the parking garage, I feel, is on par with some of the existing parking structures on site, specifically the East Mac parking structure. That particular parking structure has 6 visible parking levels to the east. So really, we're not really introducing a foreign element into the landscape here. It's something that's already existing at the site. The Children's Center, of course, is plainly visible. We're aware of that. But again, these are attractive building additions. They're not obtrusive, and the project is aimed at improving the visual quality of the site. The third step of the balancing test is the board may reduce the detrimental effect by imposing reasonable conditions on the use. And I think the applicant heard some of the suggestions of the board and its professionals and has come back with some of those mitigating measures. The applicant has proposed architectural panels on the garage, a revised landscape design, retaining a 60-foot high spruce tree and redesigning the retention system, valet parking at the Children's Center, and various other improvements, all I think work towards the betterment of this application. And finally, the board should then weigh the positive and negative criteria and determine whether on balance the grant of the variance would cause a substantial detriment to the public good. And the board may consider all of the benefits, not only the benefits arising out of the deviations from the ordinance, but all of the benefits that are conferred. And I believe the proposed additions and modifications to the existing hospital will provide state-of-the-art medical service, emergency care, and also increase the number of single-patient rooms, all benefits. Employees using existing on-site garages and leased off-site lots will be reassigned to this one parking garage, and relocation of the staff parking to this garage will have the effect of removing some of the on-street parking from public streets, specifically Morris Avenue and William Street. The traffic engineer concluded that the addition of the parking garage will not increase traffic regionally, and the expanded parking supply will improve the efficiency, safety, and circulation within the existing garages. The attractive building additions and landscape architecture help to integrate the project with its surroundings. So the design is not to attempt to hide the buildings. Design has really helped to soften the appearance of the buildings, and I think it's successful in that regard. In terms of the detriments, I didn't find any significant detriments. And board members, that's the test. It can't be the test is that there's a detriment, therefore the application must fail. No, this is a balancing test. Even if there are any detriments, I don't believe they rise to the level of significant. So on conclusion, I believe the public benefits that are derived far outweigh any perceived detriment. Now, in terms of the height variance that's required, in Grasso versus Spring Lake Heights, the court provided guidance on how we judge height variances. In exempting height variance cases from the Medici proofs, Grasso draws on the principles set forth in Sika, Randolph, and similar cases. And Grasso notes that height cases may present tailored special reasons. Grasso suggests possible proofs for a height variance. One would be to preserve views of skylines and trees, to avoid the appearance of overcrowding. Taller structures might be consistent with the surrounding neighborhood. The structure would not offend any of the purposes of the height control, and the structure would not block light, air, or open space. Now, I believe the proposed height meets the Grasso requirement tests for the following reasons. The proposed building height is necessary to achieve continuity with the existing building with respect to hospital functions and the efficient movement of both personnel and staff, or I should say patients and staff. The proposed building additions are relatively minor in nature and will not create the appearance of overcrowding, nor block light, air, or the view of surrounding properties. The hospital sits on a massive site with generous setbacks, minimizing the need for strict height control in this particular instance. The existing and proposed setbacks far exceed the minimum requirements. There will be no shadow impact from the proposed structures as vetted in prior testimony from the architect, and the proposed structure will not offend any conceivable purpose of the height regulation. Many, if not all, of the existing structures on the site already are non-conforming with respect to height. And with the exception of the transport elevator at the site's interior and the new parking structure, all of the improvements are one-story additions. I believe the C variances can be construed as C2 variances. That is, there is no complaint of hardship, but this is rather a benefits versus burdens test. And I believe these variations are beneficial and that they're necessary to effectuate this very important use, which inherently advances the public health, safety, and general welfare. Regarding the steep slope variance, all of the proposed construction within the steep slopes takes place in the area of the proposed staff garage west of Overlook Road. And the majority of the construction takes place on gentle slopes. There is very little disturbance of the steeply sloped vegetated buffer, and that really is of critical importance. All of the disturbed area will be revegetated, and stormwater controls will prevent any erosion concerns. With regard to the signage variance, there's only one new sign, and that's the Children's Center sign. The signage is commensurate with the scale of the development. It is not an intrusive sign. The style, the letter size, the overall size of the sign all comply with the ordinance requirements. The sign wall height variance, I believe, has now been eliminated. So that leaves only one other sign variance, which is the fact that it's illuminated. And this is not an advertising sign. This is a wayfinding sign. So when people get to the site, they know where to travel. And that's of critical importance in the hospital setting. So I'll just conclude by saying this application meets all the statutory tests for the granting of the variances, and I believe approval is warranted.
Thank you.
Submit the witness to examination by the board, members of the interested public, and the professionals.
Any questions from board members for this witness? Mr. Triplett, do you have anything you want to contribute to?
Just, so the board, if I could summarize what he said very eloquently in a number of words, it's an inherently beneficial use. So the proofs are a lot different than if it wasn't. they've made concessions to you the whole way through the application, so they've shown that they're trying to work with you. And the topography of the site and the setbacks and the way the site's laid out and the way they're improving traffic all leads towards the inherently beneficial use and how the board should consider the application. So, no, I think you said it great. I think you can consider that good testimony.
Okay. Anybody in the public have a question for this witness? No? You look like you were thinking about it.
I have a question, but I don't know if this is the problem.
Well, this is the last witness, so.
Well, we're gonna have comments in 10 seconds.
Yeah.
You can come up, ask, you can make your comment, and
Okay.
we'll try to get your answers.
Okay, so seeing no questions at this time, definitely no questions from board members, just one last chance, okay? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And that was your last witness, just to
Yes.
confirm? Okay. Anybody in the public want to tell us what they think about this case, pro or con? You'll have to be sworn.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes,
State your full name for the record, spell your last name.
sure. Donald Leck, L-E-C-K, 223 Morris Avenue. Sorry.
And you can ask your question, you can comment, or both.
Sure, thank you. I'm really just concerned at this point with the A part of the project, which is the child care center, emergency room that they're putting in. Very minor. I thought the engineer was going to speak, and I thought these questions were for the engineer. But under that parking lot that they currently have, 17 years ago, when the addition was put on, expansion of the emergency room, they were required to put a cistern with a slow release of storm water into the stormwater system. So if they're going to be a building over it, I was wondering if that cistern would have to be removed. And since I'm downhill, my property's downhill from them. If that causes a problem where I'm going to incur any type of flooding, because that cistern had to be removed from what's a parking lot to what's going to be a full building. The second part of that was when they put the cistern in, they had to do blasting because of the mountaintop. So I'm wondering if they have to build this building and if there would have to be blasting in order to actually build it. And if there is blasting, would there be, they had insurance and other things that were required in order to do that.
So can we pause there? Those are very important
Yes.
questions, so.
Yeah, the blasting one I think I can answer. So the state has strict regulations on blasting. It may have been different than what they did when you mentioned it. They have to do the pre-survey of the surrounding uses, they have to file the right permits with the state, and file the right permits with us. So the blasting is protected, like dually between the state and Summit, so on that issue. The cistern issue, I don't know anything about.
Mr. Iannelli is here. He's previously been sworn, and he can respond to Mr. Leck's question about the cistern.
The cistern is actually in the parking lot that we're not touching. If you know where the child care center is going, there's a retaining wall, there's a lower lot, which is a facility lot, and then there's a small upper lot by the current ED. The building's going in basically from that existing retaining wall to the building. The cistern he's speaking about is located in the facility lot, which is a lower lot. We're not touching that. And from a stormwater perspective, on this particular side of the development, we're actually slightly reducing impervious coverage. So there will be no increase in runoff from the child care center construction.
Was the cistern built correctly and as it was required to be built?
I can't comment on that. I know where the cistern is, and I know it was built with a prior application, and I know we're not affecting it.
Okay. It's still your ball if you want to play.
Thank you. I didn't know the exact location. Okay.
That's right, that's what we find out at hearings. We learn stuff.
Finally, I know the plans in which I had received a copy of has the height and numbers, but I really was just trying to visualize how high the child care center is, and in order to do that, my question is currently there's a retaining wall that goes up pretty high, and then from there's a small covering which I guess covers the walkway. and I was wondering, using that as a visual aid, how tall will the building be? Will it be at the curtain that covers the walkway, or is it at the retaining wall, which is slightly lower? Just trying to get a visual of how high this building's going.
Mr. Cameron can respond to that.
First of all, I can't believe it's been 17 years, because I was around for that one too. But if you, off to the right, where you see the back of the wall and you see the back of the canopy, to the right side of it, you'll see the waiting room wall. On your side, that's the maximum height, which is very close to the back side of the canopy. It might be a little bit higher, but it's within a foot or two. So that right-hand side, as you're looking at the back of it, is sort of the maximum height of the parapet on the rear side of the building. It's a little, I should say, it's a little taller on the street side where the entrance and the lobby area is, but I'm not sure that's going to be very visible from down where you are.
I would just make a recommendation to the board that this, we'll call a cistern, was the detention system on this lower lot. You could just make a condition that they're required to open it, inspect it, and clean it. And it's a normal process anyway, they should be doing that anyway, so you could just kind of reaffirm it as part of the application, and I think that's a good concession.
I see Mr. Sheehan nodding in agreement. Is that affirmative?
I don't have any other questions, and I'm okay with the work that they're going to be doing.
All right, thank
They've
you.
answered everything to my
Thank you.
satisfaction.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Do you have any current issues with water runoff?
Not really. I mean, my house was built in 1890, and it's a stone stack wall, so I do get some water. But I'm always worried when something's going on in a mass scale over at the hospital, being that I'm catty corner. Their new building, when they complete it, I'll be, 50 to 75 feet from it. I'm concerned with water all the time. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the public want to tell us what they think about this application? Seeing none? Okay. Mr. Sheehan, anything in conclusion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll waive the summation. I can't add anything to the comments of the planner, the architect, the engineer, or Mr. Hippolyte.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Galvin, conditions.
All right, here we go. Again, these don't seem perfect, but we'll fix them. First condition. The applicant is to comply with the board engineer's letter. Next one, must provide staging plans to the DCS prior to the start of construction. Must set up a meeting with John Linson and produce a tree protection plan. Next, when constructing the parking garage, it must be a staging matter first. Staging area. Sorry, guys. If the loop where the emergency room entrance becomes problematic, then valet parking must be added. Next, must meet the traffic engineer in 6 months, evaluate the on-site parking traffic, and see if the plan worked to improve the previous traffic situation. It's kind of cryptic. I got to turn that into real language.
So I think you just say that 6 months after the opening, the building's on site. The board engineer will meet the traffic engineer for the applicant on site to look at traffic to see if it's consistent with your testimony. We've done that before. We did that on the Equinox application years ago. We did it on a Merck application years ago. It's something you just walk out just to say, hey, is it something crazy we missed out here? And you'll know over 6 months. You won't just be like, hey, stop out. We'll know we received complaints, so we'll keep record of it.
And if it is a problem, then they'll do valet.
Right. They have to modify or do valet.
Okay. The trees are to be planted. Now, I'm not identifying, in my mind, I saw the one big tree in front of the building. There are other trees here, or is it just that one tree?
You want the green giant arborvitae you want reference specifically.
The green giant.
Install height of 12 to 15 feet.
I had that. Uh, The intent is that are they trees or are they plants? Sorry.
That's okay.
Is it chicken or fish? Okay. All right.
Yeah, I call it trees. I mean, trees, I think trees.
Ask John Lentz.
It's not landscape.
The green things. Okay.
The Jolly Green Giants, okay.
All right. The cedars in question are to remain indefinitely and should be replanted if they fail or should expire. Notwithstanding this requirement, the board retains landscape jurisdiction for a period of 5 years. So I think our limit of our authority, we're stretching it to the max of 5 years. But our intent is for them to stay out there unless you come up with some new plan that changes that. I understand that, and that's why we're not doing a deed restriction, because I don't think we want to overly burden this. Oh, yes, I can.
Well, no, I know you can, but I don't think necessarily think you have to, because
I'm agreeing with you. We're agreeing. You said I couldn't. I don't take well.
I apologize.
And I'm fighting that in court. All right, and then I have the fabric of the garage facade is to be darkened to blend in with the proposed cedars and will be determined in consultation with the board's engineer.
So I think that the staging conditions we have there, I think that started in response to our construction official's comment. And what he specifically asked for, suggested, is that the parking garage be completed first before the remaining improvements, because other parking be eliminated. So maybe we should
Do you,
make
I'm
that
going
more
to follow.
specific.
Next thing, do you think we should have a developer's agreement?
A job this
And
size.
then put the staging and.
Yeah, a job this size, it doesn't hurt. I mean, is it so massive that you need one? I mean, it's really up to the lawyers. I mean,
All right, so
for us,
let's just-
GCS, it never hurts to have one. It just helps us.
What do you think? Burn some unnecessary, we can get it done, you guys will be good neighbors and we're okay?
I would say if we can avoid an agreement, it's better than having one.
Well, we're creating all the components of it. You're gonna have a meeting,
Yeah.
you're gonna create staging, and we want first part of the project for the second part of the project. That's usually done in a developer's agreement, but this is a community-based organization, and I think my resolution will be.
Your resolution will
Be
identify.
sufficient to cover it.
Yeah.
Give me that last, which one goes first? Or do we want to refer to his letter? The construction,
Code official's letter.
no, the construction
really a
timing?
letter.
Construction order,
Construction, staging, and phasing.
construction staging, and phasing.
So they believe, Gary Lewis believed that the parking garage should be constructed first, hoping, and then everything else could follow. We agree with that.
Okay, so why don't we just say that?
Basically, it wasn't really a letter, it was his thing. Basically said if approved, new
No.
parking garage should require completion prior to remaining improvements, as parking is to be eliminated by some, whatever. And construction, staging, and parking will challenge the remaining parking inventory.
Applicant has agreed to that.
All right, the parking garage to be completed prior to additional
The remainder-
construction,
the remainder-
the balance of the construction. Gary will know what to do.
Yeah, he wasn't saying then what has to happen next out of the other 5
No, he
items.
told us,
He's saying this one first.
He's actually giving us brilliant advice. That
Yes.
should happen. If it doesn't happen, it'll be all chaos out there, and he's right. So, that's what we'll do.
Okay, so those are the conditions. Who'd like to,
The only other thing, did Mr. Carlback, did you mention Sika and I completely missed it?
Sika?
four-step balancing test.
Yes.
Okay, all right, I'm good.
okay?
We need 5 affirmative votes. I'm just saying, there are other cases that we're going to face where it's an inherently beneficial use. It's my view that not all inherently beneficial uses should be considered like automatic approvals. You got to put it through the Sika balancing test, and there are appropriate times and cases where either the negative impact on the surrounding property owners or the impact on the master plan might be more significant than the community benefits. That said, I'm done. Let's go forward.
Did you have the condition about cleaning the existing detention system? Open, cleaning? open, inspect, and clean the existing fencing system.
We talked about it and agreed
I
to it,
thought
but
I
you brought
read
it up. I don't know.
I'm gonna add it, okay? I got it. And I thought I had it
That's fine.
already.
That was the only thing I had.
I'm good. Please proceed. You want
Okay.
to talk or?
Okay, who'd like to start deliberations?
Oh,
Mr.
please,
Spur.
no, I got the other
Okay,
one. Go
Mr.
ahead, Mr.
Lardieri.
Lardieri.
All
Let's
right.
not fight.
You would say, but Overlook Hospital continues to evolve. I mean, this city and the members of the community deserve a hospital with state-of-the-art facilities. Some of the highlights: condensed and improved campus parking. Trip generation will not increase as per traffic study. Beds will decrease. Amenities will have, again, state-of-the-art improvements. Increased efficiency and patient safety. I can go on, but I think with those points being touched, along with the aesthetics that were being talked about, with the trees and the coverings, and maybe now after 32 years driving up Morris Avenue, that steep slope can be improved. The site's pretty unsightly. I think even the engineer last time was mentioning something about that. That would be that would be nice to see as well. So with that being said, I wish you luck. I'm proud to be a part of a small part of this project, improving it.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Spur, you wanted to?
Just to add to what Mr. Lardieri said, I would like to recognize the applicant's recognition of some of the detriments the board identified, like the visual impact of the parking garage, and I'd like to really, again, recognize the steps they took to address them. I don't think they're perfect, very frankly. I do believe there's going to still be some lingering visual impact for East Summit, but they've gone, in my opinion, above and beyond to find creative solutions and show some pretty neat drone photography, so that was fun.
That was cool. Anybody else?
Yeah, I was particularly concerned about the mass of parking garage, and I know that Mr. Hippolyte has spent a lot of time with the applicant since the last meeting with regard to solutions to mitigating that, and if he's good with it, which he says he is, so am I.
I'm very much in favor of it too. I mean, I see as the people have mentioned the positive benefits, it's a struggle to find significant negatives. I want to also commend the applicant for the effort put into masking the garage, showing us visually with those drone flights how impressive, where those trees are in relation to where the garage is going to be. So yeah, I'm inclined to support it too, just because I think it's a big improvement for the hospital without doing a lot of negative for the town. Any contrary opinions? Okay, then I will entertain a resolution, or a motion.
Move to approve. Second.
I'll second.
Mr. O'Leary?
Yes.
Mr. Steiner?
Yes.
Mr. Spur?
Yes.
Ms. Bloomberg?
Yes.
Ms. Schwartzstein?
Yes.
Ms. Hansel?
Yes.
Chairman Yuko?
Yes. Okay, good luck.
And we have one last piece
Yeah,
of
a
business.
little bit of housekeeping.
Let's see. Last year, Summit Zoning Board approved several variances contained in the subject named application. During the course of last year, we experienced an unforeseen job change. Out of caution, we chose not to obtain a building permit and commence the project as required by the resolution. We have a time limit in all our resolutions. Easy does it, guys. Just because we have a time limit, because when you're doing variances, you either build it or you lose it, because you're not consistent with the ordinance. But we can grant up to 3 one-year extensions for good cause. It really doesn't take a lot of good cause to get there. They certainly are displaying that by saying they had an unforeseen job
Did you
change.
identify who the applicant was? I don't think.
Yes, it's the Collins, Liam and Amy Collins, and their street address is 45 Linden Place, and they say they still intend to move forward with the project at some point next year. Therefore, we request the board grant an extension. So unless you know of some reason why we shouldn't, I kind of recommend that you do that. They didn't need to be here tonight, and see where it goes.
You need a motion?
I need a motion and a
Motion.
second.
Motion to grant the one-year extension. Yep.
Second.
Second.
I'll second it.
Mike did.
Let's do roll call.
Chairman Yuko?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Wasowski?
Yes.
Mr. Adair?
Yes.
Mr. Steiner?
Yes.
Mr. Spur?
Yes.
Ms. Newell?
Yes.
Ms. Lewinberg?
Yes.
And just one final piece of information, Catherine Hensel has agreed to be our liaison to the Shade Tree Committee, so thank you, Catherine. And our next meeting is November 19th, and we are...
I hear their bark is worse now.
We're adjourned.